Okay, thank you very much. We are now at 5:30 and we will call our meeting to order. And if Mr. Gallo would please be kind enough to lead us in the pledge.
I'd be happy to, if you wouldn't mind standing, please, and place your right hand over your heart, and then repeat after me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And again, good evening to everyone and all of our viewing audience. We will now have 1.3, the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and second. And at this point, I also need to move a couple of things around. I'd like to move 2.5 to after our closed session. And then also, this is where we will pull, because we have our agenda back to the normal agenda, so we can pull the items that we would like to pull from consent here as well. Are there any items that will be pulled from consent?
Madam President, Margaret Hill.
Yes.
I haven't gotten to my agenda yet, but I think it's 12 point. It's the one with our updates.
Updates.
Our updates, okay. Is it our ongoing initiatives and reports or board top 10?
The ongoing initiatives, the top 10.
Okay. Will there be any other consent items?
That's not a consent
That's
item.
not a consent. Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything?
I still want to pull it.
Got it. I have that. Is there anything for consent? No? All right, great. All right, so it's been moved and properly second. We will have a voice vote, beginning with Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Dr. Flores.
Aye.
Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina.
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
And Gwen Rogers, aye. Thank you. Motion carried. We now are moving to 1.4, and we have an inspiration from Mr. Danny Tillman.
Thank you very much. I like to tell two real quick stories and then just end it with a wrap up. But I hope these two stories give us some insight in how we should approach the whole coronavirus issue. About 23, 24 years ago, when I was first on the school board, the city used to pay for the crossing guards. And the city came to the district and said, we no longer want to pay for crossing guards. We think that's something that it should be a school district charge. And therefore, either we're going to split the cost with you, you guys pay 50-50, or we're not going to have crossing guards anymore. And we literally got to the brink where the next day, if we didn't take action, we would no longer have any crossing guards. And I led the motion and said, hey, we're not going to take that risk because we're not going to take the chance on having kids die because they don't have safety getting across the street. So at that point, the district started paying half of the crossing guards. A few years later, or a lot of years later, when the city went through the bankruptcy, then the district assumed the cost to pay for all crossing guards. Right. And we did that because we knew that if we didn't have crossing guards, it was a chance that our children would be unsafe. Now, because of that, I know we've saved lives, but there's nothing that you could point to that's concrete to say how many lives do we save by having crossing guards. But I think we all agree that we do have saved lives because the district stepped up, didn't play chicken with the city, and therefore we have safe passes for our students. Another story, I called Chief Polino a number of times throughout the years for issues that I'm concerned about. It's good being able to call somebody who is who polices our district that I have confidence in. And one short story, a couple of years ago, I got a call from an uncle, and he told me that his nephew that was living with him had been involved with an incident at one of our high schools. And when they called school police, his nephew had left the campus. And when school police approached him, they actually found a weapon by his nephew. And he called to tell me that that wasn't his nephew's gun and that his nephew was a great kid and there's no way he would have a gun next to him. And so I called Chief Polino and I said, Chief, I need you to look into this. I grew up with this kid's uncle. He's telling me that his nephew wouldn't do this, but I need you to look into it and tell me what you think. Chief did his investigation, came back to me. He said, Danny, there's no doubt this young man had this gun. And we really feel like if we had not arrived when we did, it was off campus at the time, that this young man would have hurt somebody. So I called back to Uncle. The uncle was upset with me, but in the end, the kid got expelled from school. The uncle moved the student back east. 6 months later, that young child killed somebody.
Wow.
And I tell you that story to say how important it is to have someone like Chief Polino that I can go to and have confidence in, knowing that he's there to ensure that our children are safe. But not only that, knowing that he's not going to waver in terms of doing his investigations and giving me the confidence that I'm not expelling somebody that shouldn't be expelled, making sure somebody didn't get a raw deal. We wouldn't have that luxury if we had to depend on the city police, right? So then again, you can't say for sure that young man would have ended up killing somebody in our district, but just the fact that he had the propensity to do it someplace else means that the work that Chief Polino and his staff do is why we have them there. And I say that to lead us to the coronavirus issues that we're dealing with right now. Everyone knows that until you're able to test, treat, and quarantine, that you don't have a safe environment in terms of coronavirus. So our district, I think, took the right action immediately and went along and shut down the schools, knowing that we're going to wait out until we get to a point where we feel confident that we can do it in a safe manner. We're waiting to hear from the governor, but I do say that at this time, we need to prepare for the future. And if we think at some point in the future that we're going to open schools and have kids come back physically, then the one thing we need to do now is start buying PPEs, all the personal protection. We need to have masks. We need to have gloves. We need to have hand sanitizers. We can't wait until it's time to come back to school to look for those products because everyone's going to be looking for them at that time. So if there's any possibility that we're going to open school before there is a vaccine and a cure for this virus, we have to make sure that we purchase the things that are going to protect our staff. And we'll talk later about the start time, but I also think that's why we should wait until September to open schools to give ourselves as much time as possible to do it the right way. I'll give you one big issue. Our district gave out 27,000 devices from classrooms. I've talked to Ms. Christakis and I said to her, you need to order those devices now. And the reason why I say that, because I'm ordering devices right now. Everything is hard to get. So if we put in the order right now for the 27,000 devices, they'll come in. But not only that, we're going to need time to set those devices back up into those schools the right way once they get in. And computer systems, just like a building, it's easy to tear it down. It's easy to take those devices out of the classrooms and handle the kids. It's a lot harder to put them back in the classroom, connect them, get them working properly. So I just hope that I would hope that we buy ourselves some time to allow us to prepare to open school for the next 2021 year the right way. And with that, I got to say, I want to thank all the staff. I want to thank the computer staff because they never get any love. So I want to give the computer technician staff some love because they've done a great job of getting that equipment ready to go out to the parents and the children of our district, and they're going to be the ones that have to put it back into those classrooms and make it work right. So to the entire district staff, I want to thank you for the work that you've done thus far, and I want the parents and the community to know that you're in good hands with this board, this Superintendent Volkamore and the rest of the district staff. I'm just amazed at the work that they've done and the success that we're having with distance learning. Kudos out to Dr. Mitchell's group and everybody else who's worked on getting that curriculum set up. With that, I think that's inspiration for us to continue the great work that we're doing. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have my mute on. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. That was great. You covered just abundance of things, but necessary. We're gonna move into our special, we have our resolutions. However, Dr. Flores, I saw that, but was it something on his inspiration? Because we're gonna move.
Yes. I just wanted to thank you, Danny, for your words of wisdom and all of the, because of all the time that you've been on the board. And I want to emphasize also that we should go forward and get all preparations that we need for our, to protect our kids, our staff, and start ordering them now. I know that we got a really interesting email, all of us, about, doing tailored masks, by schools and so forth. But I think it's a great idea. I also support you and I support our district police. They've done tremendous work for us. And of course, all of our teachers, all our staff who've done tremendous lifts.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to 2.1. We have resolution in recognition of Cinco de Mayo. And so, Dr. Flores, I'm going to ask you to do 2.1. And if Dr. Hill would get ready for 2.2, and if Dr. Wyatt would get ready for 2.3. Okay, Dr. Flores.
Okay, got it. Resolution in recognition of Cinco de Mayo. Whereas the date, May 5th, 1862, is observed to commemorate the Mexican Army's unlikely victory over French forces in the Battle of Puebla under the leadership of General Ignacio Zaragoza Seguin, and whereas promoting the importance of this date is necessary so that students know about the bravery displayed by the Mexican people in their struggle for independence. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District declares that schools acknowledge the historical importance and heroism commemorated in the celebration of the Cinco de Mayo, and that schools recognize the impact of Mexican culture and tradition on the history of the United States. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Let's vote. All right, Ms. Rosales Medina.
Aye.
Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Dr. Flores.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
Gwen Rogers. Aye. Is motion carried. Thank you so much. 2.2. Dr. Hill.
Madam President, I would like to ask our Vice President, Dr. Wyatt, to be my substitute.
Okay.
I'm having a problem locating my agenda.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Dr. Wyatt, you ready?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure, Madam President. Thank you, Dr. Hill. All right, 2.2, resolution in recognition of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Whereas in May, the San Bernardino City Unified School District joins others in California and the nation in celebrating the contributions of Asian Pacific Americans. And whereas this observance allows us to consider the valuable contributions of Asian Pacific Americans to the growth and development of our great state and nation. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District recognizes May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and encourages its schools to celebrate through appropriate ceremonies and activities. So move. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina.
Aye.
Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Dr. Flores.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
And Gwen Rogers. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. 2.3, we will move that to Mr. Gallo.
Okay, this is recognition of Labor History Month. Whereas every May, California and the United States celebrates the rich labor history that has shaped our nation. And whereas the San Bernardino City Unified School District, through its Community Engagement Plan 2.0 and linked learning efforts, is strengthening the labor force and economic vitality of the cities of San Bernardino and Highland by ensuring that students graduate prepared to succeed in college and careers. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District recognizes May as Labor History Month and encourages schools to participate in activities that acknowledge the role that the labor movement has played in our country. So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. We will vote. Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Mr. Tillman, 2.4.
My pleasure, Madam President.
Thank you.
And whereas May is Williams Syndrome Awareness Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about the rare genetic condition that affects an estimated 30,000 people in the United States. And whereas North Park Elementary student Jonathan Martinez, who died on April 10th, 2017, was born with Williams Syndrome, which is characterized by a host of lifelong medical challenges. And therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District takes this opportunity to honor the memory of Jonathan Martinez by recognizing May as Williams Syndrome Awareness Month and encourages schools to express their heartfelt appreciation for Jonathan Martinez and honor his legacy. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right. We are now moving to our closed session 3.1. So we will be logging out to our viewing audience. We will be logging out, but we will be coming back. So hopefully you can take this time and maybe again, visit the website. It has a lot of information, especially in reference to our new distance learning. So thank you. Thank you so much. We are now going to resume our board meeting. And we will go back to item 2.5, our rights to resource report update.
Madam President,
Yes.
you need to vote on the HR.
Oh, is it in there? Uh-oh. Did you put it in there for me?
It's in the agenda.
Okay, let me go. You're right. Okay, I found it. So be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to dismiss the following certificated employee from his or her employment with the district, HR certificated 19-20-03.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. Vote, Mr. Gallo,
Aye.
Dr. Hill,
Aye.
Dr. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Tillman,
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina,
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt, and Gwen Rogers. Aye. All right, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. All right, we will now move back to 2.5, our rights to resource report update.
Thank you, Madam President. Just by way of introduction, very quickly, Board, as you know, we are, this was a discussion item at the April 7th board meeting. Staff was asked to bring back additional information. So you see some familiar faces on our team, meaning Dr. Mitchell and Mrs. Christakos. We also have Todd Robbins from Atkinson Andelson. Joining the team this evening is Mr. Mike Fine. Mr. Fine is the Chief Executive Officer of the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, more commonly known as FCMAT. FCMAT was created by legislation back in 1991 as an independent and external state agency that specializes in helping districts promote sound financial practices. While we're glad that Mr. Fine is with us this evening, it's actually a good thing that he's not immediately recognizable to us. Normally they come in when districts are in financial trouble and they help them to avert financial crisis. So we're glad you're here, Mike. Mr. Fine has reviewed all pertinent information related to this issue, including the memorandum you received late Friday evening from the group that authored the original Our Rights to Resources document. I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Fine to start our presentation this evening.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I do have both dark colored suits and light colored suits, depending on why we're in a district. So today I chose not to put a suit on at all. So that's probably good news, right?
Thank you.
Dark colored suits and sunglasses. So the slide that you have is the first slide beyond the title slide here that you have in your presentation. I'd like to speak to a couple of these. I've had the opportunity to meet with staff several times to review a number of documents. I've reviewed the correspondence that the district received as well. FCMAT is very familiar with the LCFF, the local control funding formula in the state of California, and its requisite local control accountability plan. And so I want to take you through a couple highlights, I think, as the current discussion, really to focus the current discussion and set the stage here. First, the LCFF and the allocation of funds is a local decision. It is governed by a locally minded strategic plan that we refer to as the LCAP, which stands for the Local Control and Accountability Plan. San Bernardino City has, from day one in this process, over the last almost decade, day one in this process really set a best practice and set an example for the rest of the in the depth in which you engage with your stakeholders, that listening process that you go through, your responsiveness to them and how you develop your plan, and so on. And so that's ultimately becomes, in place of the longstanding regulations around spending, in place of the longstanding restrictions on spending, it is your locally minded plan that is in essence the governing document that ultimately is supported and aligned to your budget and the allocation of your resources. It does vary across the state as to what's in an LCAP. Some districts include their entire budget in their LCAP. Some districts include only local control funding formulas, and some districts only include a subset of the local control, the local control funding funds, for example, the supplemental and concentration portion of those funds. At a minimum, you must address the use of your supplemental and concentration funds, which are two of several grants that are embedded in this bigger overall state funding mechanism called the LCFF. As the slide alludes, your stakeholders have repeatedly asked for safety investments. This is really, as you all know far better than I do, this goes back years and years and years, and probably originally led to the actual creation of a school police department in your school district to serve your community. But certainly more recent, and you'll see that shortly here, there's ample evidence of stakeholder input around the broad topics of school safety, and your own police department, as you know, in the services that they provide are very comprehensive in nature, and they go beyond what a typical police department provides. Certainly a municipal police department would provide to school-age children, students, and to school, the actual physical aspects of our school community. As I've looked at some of the documents, as I've had discussion with staff and asked questions and heard answers, I do not describe in any way or form the district as misusing LCFF funds. These are funds that are unrestricted in nature, very intentionally unrestricted, set by the state. They're also funds that you are expending in concert with your stakeholder input. I don't believe you've done anything illegal. At best, some of the concerns that have been raised recently really deal with technical compliance. I don't believe you've made any attempt to be to have a lack of transparency, but there is no question that how you have chosen to describe certain goals, actions, objectives within your LCAP could be done in an improved fashion. And really what that gets down to is that you need to strengthen your descriptions around your activities, and you need to connect the dots between what you hear from your stakeholders in those listening meetings to the goals that you set, to the actions and the services that you identify, and ultimately to the expenditures of those supplemental and concentration funds. That's the task in my mind that's before you to resolve any concern here, and that is simply doing an improved job of how you describe the comprehensive services your police department provides. Remember, the services you describe in your LCAP become the governance of how you expand those supplemental and concentration funds. Those are locally minded. So when you hear your stakeholders talk about the need for improved safety programs and those, you simply need to connect those dots. In addition, I'd remind you that there are 8 state priorities that you're required to address in your LCAP each year. You can address them to different degrees, but you must at least address all 8 each year. And many of those 8 let me correct that. Your police department and your public safety efforts in the district support many of those 8 state priorities: social and emotional learning, basic needs with respect to safety, and safe environments, the whole access to instructional programs, the conditions that are set to support and nurture learning in your classrooms, and so on, are all supported by the police services you provide. So again, you simply need to get a darker and wider pin and connect those dots in the description in your LCAP, and I believe most of the questions that have been raised will simply be addressed. I also want to, on this last bullet, while this gets technical into budget, the bottom line is this: San Bernardino City Unified has followed a best practice with regard to the use of carryover from supplemental and concentration. There are no state regulations that specifically require you to allocate unexpended funds at the end of one year to those same goals in the following year. And yet that is actually the practice you have followed. There has been legislation introduced, given the current circumstances in Sacramento of funding and COVID-19 related items. I don't expect that legislation to advance very far this year, but that would tighten the use of those carryover funds up. But you are practicing a best practice by allocating your unexpended funds from one year into the second year to continue to support the goals and the actions and the services that you've identified in your LCAP.
David, next slide. So board, this is Keenan Mitchell. Good evening. I wanted to remind the board how we've engaged stakeholder engagement over the last at least 5 years. Just want to remind you of this graphic that you've seen several times. We employ a kind of a cyclical system that involves engagement at the district level While the schools mirror our engagement strategy at the site level, we do this iterative process 3 times per year, ending with an update to the board. You've seen 2 of those this year already. And as you see across the outer circle, we start with community stakeholders. We get input and information to the board. It goes to directors, principals. We get their input and they use that input that goes back and forth. You see the arrows there under principals between their schools and the district level. We then convene with our DAC, DLAC, and DAC and other governance and advisory committees 3 times a year again. We also get feedback from our cabinet and union leadership, and that goes back to community leaders. So this process is done 3 times. If you look at the inner circle, our principals start with their parent advisory groups, get feedback from school community members, as well as staff and students. And you'll see the back and forth arrows. One process informs another. David, if you can pull up that other document, please, I appreciate it. Board, I want to remind you here that we've given you this several times. This is the LCAP meeting structure schedule that we've done, that we've shared with you for the last 5 years, ever since I've been in Ed Services. If you look, you'll see the iterative process. So it's like starting September 6th, we started with directors and LCAP. We went to the student advisory committee, and that's well attended. Our directors and LCAP leads. It goes back to the student advisory committee, cabinet, union leadership, community stakeholder on October 29th. And then you see in November, we go to students again, DLAC, CAC, and then a board presentation. That's one iteration. In December, we did conduct a board presentation on December 10th. Then we went to site leaders, DAC again, students, committee again, cabinet, union leadership, directors on January 10th, DAAC January 23, student advisory committee, all the way to again a community stakeholders meeting in February 11th. We did hold that meeting, and then as you can see in March is when the COVID hit. And so you've seen this schedule. We've done the same engagement strategy for the past 4 years or so. We've been applauded by our county LCAP oversight in terms of the engagement process that we've used. We will, however, going forward, we'll take the advice of Mr. Fine and Mr. Robbins in terms of better describing the use of our PD, as well as other key strategies that are inside of the LCAP. And we think that's just prudent advice, and we certainly plan on doing that going forward. David, you can pop back to the PowerPoint, please. Thank you so much. Next slide. Board, we also want, in those different feedback sessions, you'll see that our community, and we've given you this is a smattering of some of the feedback we get. As you know, we get thousands of lines of feedback. We have online surveys, in-person surveys across all of our meetings. Our LCAP meetings are very well attended. Typically, we're at an average of 100, 150 people, as well, and not including our staff. And so we've had well-attended LCAP meetings over the last few years. Our community has really responded to our request to involve them. They're vocal. They know exactly. They're comfortable in voicing exactly what they feel we need to do as a school district to better support their families. You'll see here in the LCAP survey, as well as the community meeting, most recently on October 29th, more police surveillance, more training on school safety. Schools need to give students a safe environment, continued support for safety. All the way down to 16, 17, there's a lot we can do to make sure this doesn't happen again. This was talking around our school shooting. This district has suffered a terrorist attack, and just the overall perception of danger in the city. And we believe that our school police do a lot to help our children and families feel safe. Next slide. Board, wanted to share with you among the normal policing activities. I want to bring you back. When I first joined the district in 2011, we were engaged in a huge discussion around K violation suspensions. There was a similar report that came out then about the number of citations that we were giving. And so the board asked cabinet to really engage in a discussion around lowering and eliminating K violation suspensions, lowering and eliminating police citations. And so at that point, Chief Polino launched an initiative around transitioning our school police into doing more restorative practices in terms of policing. And so you'll see these are some of the programs that came out of that. As you remember, now our police department largely leads our effort to increase volunteers at our schools by doing fingerprint and processing. We developed the youth court in concert with our PD. Many of our officers and our surrounding court officers participate in the youth court. We've invested heavily in crime intervention technology with security cameras, a Raptor system in terms of single point entry and buzzing, keep people in and keep our schools safe. Our police department has Adopt a School program. Of course, we've always participated in the Gang Reduction Intervention Program, or GRIP. Our PD has been hugely impactful with giving positive tickets to kids. In fact, I'll give an example. When Cabinet attended the 100-year celebration of Mount Vernon Elementary School, we had our Royal High School kids there to celebrate with our elementary kids at Mount Vernon, and they put on a little competition between kids. There was one competition where kids had to stomp a balloon and pop it. There was a little kindergartner that couldn't quite pop the balloon. The young lady, 5th grade student, popped it for him. We took note of her graciousness, helping out a youngster. And within 30 minutes, we had officers congratulating her with a positive ticket. We believe that creating a positive relationship with our kids and law enforcement in communities that have not typically viewed law enforcement as a help or a particular friend to the community. And we believe that this relationship may save lives as we help kids build positive relationships with caring adults that know how to address our children in a restorative sense and not and away from the typical criminalization of children or being seen as an impediment, while also at the same time tackling very serious criminal actions and issues across our schools. And as you know, we also have a highly developed career pathways with our cadets and explorers. We believe that we believe in our districts to that law enforcement and service in the military is it's a viable option and career path for our kids, and our police department is a big part of that. So just wanted to share some of the things that this PD is doing. I think Mr. Tillman shared some things earlier as well that's important to note as well. So we know that there's no debate about the need for PD. We can, to Mr. Fine's point, Mr. Robbins' point, we could do a much better job of describing some of the services that have come out as an outgrowth or as a response to the community's clear response and call for action that we improve the safety of our youngsters and teachers around the school district through the PD. Next slide, David. And so I'll turn it over at this point to Ms. Christakos.
Thanks, Keenan. Thanks, team. So just wrapping up what's already been said from Mr. Fine and Dr. Mitchell will better describe the spending of our supplemental and concentration funding in our LCAP. This will be accomplished through our full engagement with district stakeholders, as Dr. Mitchell talked about. We will include narrative of improved increased services in the LCAP for school police. And we're also going to evaluate all of our expenditures for school police and all of our budget for base, supplemental, and concentration. And just reiterate that all funds will be included in the 2021 LCAP. Next slide. Dr. Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Christakos. So board, this is a typical timeline for revision of the LCAP process. As you know, we should be starting our next 3-year cycle. The state has given us some grace on this given the COVID-19, and we're looking like we're pushing these timelines back to December. But we just wanted to just share with you, in a typical fashion, you'll see that link to LCAP input that's always on our website. We always are collecting data continuously for any of our stakeholders. We've been doing the same thing for the last 4 years. We have thousands of lines of data that we have carefully classified and departmentalized and sorted in such a way to make sense in terms of writing the LCAP. We believe that our LCAP is representative of the wants, needs, and desires of our total school community, including our teachers and staff, our students, our community leaders, including our nonprofit organizations that support our work, as well as our parents. And so we believe one of the things that Dr. Marsden focused heavily on early in his career here in the district was that we believe that a plan that does not have everyone's fingerprint is a failure on our part. We've kept that tenor throughout all of our engagement, and we want you to assure you that we will continue that effort. Now better guided with the advice of our partners, with Mr. Fine and Mr. Robbins, we agree that we could better describe the services of our police department as it relates to creating positive learning environments for our kids to come and go to. There are also other areas in our plan that we think we can better describe. And as we go through this iteration, based upon the state's revised timeline for submission of the LCAP, you can rest assured that we will continue to engage our parents as we've done across the years. We'll have a better mind for describing the activities that support our students, and that you'll continue to see an LCAP that truly has the fingerprint of all of our community stakeholders. Thank you.
Is that the conclusion? Is there another slide? Okay. Thank you for this presentation, and thank you, board, for holding your questions. I believe, Karen, you have some public comments, and particularly on this item.
Yes, Madam President, I do. I have 5 related to this topic. Okay, the first one is from Liliana Valenzuela. She's the chairperson of CAC. Our community is concerned about the recent ACLU study report that found SBCUSD to be illegally misusing $9.5 million from LCAP funds to fund school police. This money should be given back to our students by way of services that directly benefit our students, such as wellness centers at every school for social and emotional support that will be required when students come back to campus due to our current distance learning situation. A full district investigation needs to be done, and action should be taken to prevent this from happening again. Our community deserves better than this. Thank you. Our next one is from Evelyn Chavez. I believe she is a student. Okay, the San Bernardino Students for Change Coalition is made up of ICUC youth leaders who are both former and current students from across the different high schools in the San Bernardino City Unified School District. Tonight, we send in this comment on behalf of the over 120 students that actively participate in our clubs on our respective campuses. We are saddened to hear that the district allocated $9.5 million to law enforcement when it was supposed to be spent on services for foster youth, English learners, and low-income students. We strongly believe that there are countless other ways this money could be spent that would fit its intended purpose and that would help students in our district to have better opportunities to succeed both academically and emotionally. For example, for years now, we have been asking for wellness centers at all of the high schools in our district. We believe having wellness centers in our schools would help support students who struggle with issues that hinder their ability to get good grades. We have also pushed for more therapists for the HEART team. We believe the work that the HEART team does is extremely needed in our schools and communities, and we would like to see that expand. Every day we see many of our students struggling to do well in school because of things that are happening in their homes and with their families. And even though they need support, many times they have no idea where to go to get the help. This is why we continue to push for more mental wellness resources for all of the students in our district. We really hope you take our voices into consideration and hope that it becomes your priority to fix this and make sure it doesn't continue to happen. We encourage you to take the time to look at this funding again and find other ways to spend it that will really have a positive impact on our youth and that will make both students and parents feel more welcomed at our schools. Thank you. Okay, the next one is from San Bernardino Education Justice Coalition. It's a community-based organizations. All right, let me see here. Honorable members of the board, interim superintendent and cabinet, we write this letter as the San Bernardino Educational Justice Coalition, which is made up of the Blue Educational Foundation, Congregations Organized for Prophetic Engagement, Inland Congregations United for Change, and Youth Action Project. We write in response to our Rights to Resources report and to its application to the San Bernardino City Unified School District. As this report comes to light, we realize that it has been a challenge for the district to both gather enough community input for the LCAP and create accountability and transparency for our community. It is during times like these that it becomes evident where we have disinvested heavily when it comes to our students and families, but it is also during these times that it becomes clear that there is an opportunity to fully redirect mismanaged funds to programs that will have a positive impact on our students and families. The civil rights attorneys who authored our Right to Resources report found that SBCUSD was not in compliance with the local control funding formula in the following ways. 1, SBCUSD improperly omitted at least $9.5 million of spending intended for high-need students in its 2019-20 LCAP. And 2, even if the district did properly disclose it, spending such funds on a district-wide police department is improper because it is neither principally directed towards nor effective in meeting the district's goals for foster youth, English learners, or low-income students as LCFF regulations require. As such, the district must properly disclose all spending in its LCAP and, after performing the requisite community engagement, reinvest the $9.5 million of law enforcement spending on evidence-based services that actually support high-needs students. Studies have shown that students who have a high-needs background are more susceptible to low efficacy, which can affect their academic successes as well as their social emotional development. This coalition letter should serve as a point of accountability and a reminder of the possibilities for our students' social emotional development on which you are able to have an impact on today. There are many ongoing community organization efforts that can attest to the importance of uplifting students with high needs. Our primary focus is how to reinvest the $9.5 million in S&C funds that should be used to improve the educational experience of high-need students and close the achievement gap. As organizations that have decades of experience working and partnering with the SBCUSD board, district staff, and bridging the communities of thousands of students and families that we serve, work with, and represent, we recommend and encourage SBCUSD reinvest the $9.5 million in programs that increase or improve services for high-need students and families, such as A, support for English language learners. Use evidence from a self-analysis based on the research-aligned English learners statewide rubrics to identify areas of improvement and LCFF investment, identify specific outcomes for the different profiles of ELs with metrics that are sensitive to their language and academic development, provide professional development for all educators on the implications of implementation of the English, I think I missed something, of the English language, I think. B, closing the achievement gap for African American and Latinx students, sustaining and resourcing district-wide and school-side efforts to address the achievement gap among students of color by adequately resourcing the Equity and Targeted Student Achievement Department, which oversees the African American and Latino student achievement task forces, and ensuring members of our coalition are also engaged and participate in them. Increasing opportunities for equity training for all instructional leaders, increase teacher diversity through targeted recruitment efforts, increase access to instructional gap specialists, deepen engagement amongst parents through school and district parent governance structures. C, deeper investments in restorative practices and PBIS systems throughout the district. A significant percentage of the achievement gap for students of color is caused by punitive discipline. Research shows that students of color are more likely to face a disproportionate amount of school suspension and expulsion. By reinvesting funds in training on restorative practices, we are making sure that we are investing in preventative measures from the beginning. For these reasons, we advocate for a redirection of funds to strengthen district and school site infrastructure to track and monitor the degree to which restorative justice practices and PBIS are being used to further reduce suspension, expulsion, and law enforcement referrals. Expand restorative practice training for all district and school site personnel, including school safety and law enforcement personnel. D, increased funding for wellness centers at high schools, mental health and social emotional counselors, and staffing for HEART team. Research has continuously shown that students who receive social, emotional, and mental health support achieve better academic success. While we know that our district has taken great steps in the right direction, the mental health resources available to students is still very limited. More funding needs to be directed towards opening wellness centers on every single high school campus across the district, where mental and physical wellness resources would be centralized and readily available for students. More funding directed to the HEART team in order to hire additional social emotional counselors, such as marriage and family therapists and licensed clinical counselors. Increased funding for HEART associates corresponding to the expanding needs of students receiving services. E, increased funding in student and family community-based engagement that supplements school-based family engagement. It is through this approach that we can target the hard-to-reach families and students that don't have the privilege to participate at site activities for various reasons that range from time availability, transportation, childcare, etc. In the past decade, Blue, COPE, ICUC, and YAP have supported the district in thinking outside the box when it comes to students and family engagement. Today, we continue to support family and student engagement from a community-based family engagement perspective. At a time where districts are scrambling to engage families, you have a resource of community-based organizations that have earned trust and relationships with students and families that can be leveraged to reach a broader number of families in our district. F, closing the digital divide by engaging our community-based organizations to assist in outreach during the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. As the COVID-19 crisis continues, community needs become exacerbated. Thousands of families have lost income, suffer from food and housing insecurity, and many have to make tough choices of keeping their internet, phone, and other services on or put food on the table. Hearing family concerns and need for access to technology as well as access to the internet is a vital utility at this moment. Community-based organizations, outreach efforts help to keep track of our community's necessities during this crisis and beyond. Members of this coalition are actively advocating with our local legislators, Congress, Department of Education Board, and others to uplift the local needs of our students and families. We continue to advocate for support and resources for our district and families, as well as engaging communities in civic engagement efforts, such as making sure they are counted in the 2020 census to ensure our communities receive the needed funds for the next decade. In addition, all of our coalition members, congregations, and community members are engaged to pass Schools and Communities First to bring additional resources from the state of California for our communities and schools. We share this to say we are with you to ensure that in support of our families, teachers, and community, demands for needed funds be met with community partnership from our leaders who will be there to advocate for our entire district, teachers, families, and all of our students. As the San Bernardino Educational Justice Coalition, we strongly urge the San Bernardino City Unified School District to take into consideration our collective voice and recommendations that reflect who we are as a community and the thousands of families that in one way or another are represented in our membership. We look forward to our continued collaboration and work moving forward to ensure the true intent of local control funding formula comes to a reality to all of our African American students, English learners, foster youth, students with disabilities, and low-income students benefit directly from the supplement and concentration funds they generate. If you have any questions, please feel to contact us. Okay, that one's done. The next one, excuse me, is from Rosa Loera. She is the DLAC president. The DLAC parent community is frustrated and outraged at the illegal misused distribution of LCAP funds taken from the budget of English learner, foster, and low-income students. We publicly denounce that of the $140 million allocated to this category of students, the administration of the San Bernardino District diverted $9.5 million to the school police, which fills us with outrage and motivates us to request an in-depth investigation to ensure that people in charge of this distribution of funds be audited. We want transparency and honesty from the people who work for the education of our community. It is in our interest that justice be done to our students. DLAC is consulting to follow the process for a lawsuit against the San Bernardino School District. Sincerely, Rosa Loera. And hold on one second. I thought I had one more. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I do. Sorry. This one is from Ariana Rodriguez, Victor Loom, Nicole Ochi, and their community and policy organizations with public advocates and the ACLU of Southern California. Let's see. Our organizations, along with Gente Organizada, drafted the Our Right to Resources report the board discussed at the April 7th meeting. The report did not address SBCUSD specifically, so we submitted a letter to the board on Friday, April 17th, analyzing SBCUSD's spending on law enforcement and security. Upon a closer review of the district's local control accountability plan and budget documents, we found that the district did not comply with the law because it entirely omitted at least $9.5 million in spending on law enforcement from its LCAP. In fact, SBCUSD omitted more than $100 million in supplemental and concentration funds that were intended to support low-income students, foster youth, and English learners, collectively high-need students, from its LCAP. These omissions violate LCFF's transparency and equity requirements and preclude meaningful community engagement and oversight. Further, the district's budget documents revealed that the $9.5 million the district spent on law enforcement were S&C funds, which are supposed to be used to close achievement gaps and improve school climate and engagement for high-need students. As we explained in more detail in our letter, the district's use of S&C funds on law enforcement is illegal because the spending is, one, not effective in supporting the district goals for high-need students, and two, is not principally directed towards low-income, foster youth, or English learners. As such, the district must immediately stop spending S&C funds on law enforcement and instead consult community partners such as congregations organized for prophetic engagement, Inland Congregations United for Change, Youth Action Project, and district advisory committees such as the District African American Advisory Council, District English Learner Advisory Council, and the District Advisory Council to redirect the funding for more effective uses. Proper and community-supported investments include spending on English learner supports, closing the African American achievement gap, improving student and family engagement practices, and deeper investments in mental health and social emotional counselors, wellness centers, heart teams, restorative justice practices, and positive behavior interventions and supports, amongst others. In addition, all S&C expenditures should be disclosed and justified as increasing or improving services for high-need students in the LCAP. Please refer to our April 17th letter for a more detailed discussion about the law, SBCUSD's improper spending, and community recommendations. Please let us know if you have any further questions. And that is all of the comments for 2.5.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. Now, board, I know that there was a couple of comments that wanted, starting with, did it start with Ms. Rosales Medina, and then Dr. Flores, and then Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and I also appreciate the public comments. With reviewing with Mike Fine mentioned, I also want to clarify just to make sure that I got this right. So the $11.7 million, that is the LCFF funding currently right now, right? That's what is the carryover?
That was carryover added to this year's budget. The board allocated it in late June and also unaudited actuals. So supplemental concentration is about $40 million.
$40 million, okay. Just wanted to make sure it was clear.
140,
okay.
40 million.
And then looking at it, as it was mentioned that we weren't necessarily in doing anything illegal, it's more in making sure that we're in compliance. I do want to suggest that we do move the $9 million or move the line item to a base, as it was suggested beforehand, into the base funding to make sure that we are in compliance in addressing that $9.5 million. That is a significant amount of money that is addressed. So when you talk about, when it was mentioned earlier in the slide, youth court, also for the use of technology. Technology was just used at a one time. I just wanted to clarify with that with Dr. Mitchell, right? It was just one time?
Ms. Medina, we actually have ongoing costs related to some of those expenditures, and Ms. Christakos could probably provide more detail, but I'm not real sure about what our ongoing expenses are, as well as our ongoing needs related to safety upgrades to our schools.
The reason why I say is because that Raptor system, when you purchase the program, that's mainly the majority of the cost, and of course there's monthly costs to it after the fact, but that's not a significant. I mean, I imagine the one-time cost is a lot more, and so for the $9.5 million, it would turn down. It would be a lot less than what we had spent. So if you look at it, if we were to do this, if we were to continue to do this without making any changes, I'm assuming that you would see this drop because a lot of the one-time fees will not be carried over to it. And also to address like youth court. So youth court is within that $9.5 million, or is that a separate, in a separate line item?
Those are in separate line items, but the PD supports youth court.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify too, because even within that, it made it seem as if it was.
I was talking program. I wasn't talking cost necessarily on that slide. I was talking programs that support our district, that the PD that the police department is leading. So I wasn't trying to make a comparison of costs. I was saying, in terms of the request to better describe the services that our PD is providing, that slide was to describe the other issues beyond non-traditional beyond traditional law enforcement strategies that our PD is doing to support our students.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure that I was clarifying with that. Okay, great. That's it for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Medina. All right, Dr. Flores.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
I have like 3 or 4 questions, maybe 5, and a couple of comments. And the first one is directed to Mr. Fine. You said that the district needs to include all supplemental and concentration spending of funds in the LCAP. And it was noted by a few of our public comments that, or somebody mentioned that our district totally omitted $100 million from the LCAP. So how can we even try to justify the omission? And it clearly it's a lack of transparency. It's a lack of integrity. It's a lack of, commitment to our stakeholders. So I would like you to respond to that.
I'd be happy to. From the documents that I've looked at, Dr. Flores and board, that's simply not an accurate statement. Your LCAP accounts for all of your supplemental concentration, including the carryover. Schedules that have been provided along with your standard state required budget documents have all included those full expenditures. There are, I think, 4 or 5 items within your LCAP that total the reference 17.5% that you that's referenced in the letter, the April 17th letter. And so, but that's a little bit of cherry picking out of a very large document, right? Just to pick those 4.
Can I clarify what you're saying? So our district did include the justification for the total amount of money, the $140 million?
Everything I've seen, you've accounted for that. The area that I would be concerned about is that for some of it, the language you've used and the way you've connected dots is weaker than probably what it should be, but you've accounted for it. And let me also remind you that there is a compliance review, there is a oversight process to the LCAP that's performed by your county superintendent of schools. And they are obligated to check for 3 things. And one of the items that they're obligated to check for each year, and they do this and they do it very well, is to ensure that your LCAP matches to the supplemental concentration. So
okay.
$100 million missing, quote unquote, missing, simply wouldn't have passed.
It wasn't missing. It was omission, a transparent omission to the stakeholders. I wasn't saying it was, I guess I didn't say missing. I said it was omitted from being presented to the stakeholders.
Yeah, that was my word. I apologize.
I can't hear you.
That was my word, not yours, absolutely, and probably not the best choice of words. But my point is that the county, one of the 3 tasks the county superintendents must perform on your LCAP is to ensure that you have accounted for all of your supplemental concentration. And you will have that. That's required before they can approve your annual budget on September 15th.
Okay, and then I just want to clarify that, our stakeholders have never, ever seen the itemized LCAP budget. And it wasn't revealed until March 17th when we had the second interim. And that's when the disclosure of the $9.5 million for our district police was evident. And I just want you to know that. And then on, you said something else which was really, really important. And also I'm speaking to Dr. Mitchell as well. It's not enough just to describe and be in compliance by description. one of the other caveats that you said is that we as a district have to be accountable to our stakeholders. And, they have to have that transparency in terms of, how we're allocating the money. That's a condition in the LCAP. And as you heard the kids say, the kids said these are the things that we would prefer. These are the directions we would prefer the board to consider. And we have, our CBOs, our community-based organizations also saying all of this. And by the way, our CBOs were the ones that brought forth the school to prison pipeline that our district was engaged in until they brought it, forth to us. We then started as a board, revising all of our policies so that we were not criminalizing our students. So, they're trusted partners as stakeholders. And I don't know if you heard this, but they were not aware at all of this expenditure. And I think that we as a district have to be accountable to our kids, to our parents, to our CBOs, our DLAC parents. They just don't represent just anybody. There's 12,000 English learners and an additional 12,000 reclassified students. That's 24,000 kids out of 49,000. And they, are seeking justice in terms of the distribution of funds. And, when you say we can use the money any way we want, that's not true. We have to listen to our stakeholders. And we as people, we as a board, I am an elected official. All of us are. Our district personnel, need to adhere to our stakeholders' request and be accountable and transparent. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. I believe it's Mr. Gallo.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Well, I participated in most of the safety groups discussions on the LCAP, and where there were many of our community stakeholders present there. I also participated in virtually every single one of our student advisory board meetings that we held on a bi-monthly basis at the PDC. And uniformly, our students and at that safety group, the issue of bullying, of safety, and I mean physical safety, and those types of considerations for maintaining strict adherence and discipline at our local schools was a prime concern for these students. And our police department was represented at every single one of those meetings and participated. And we sat at every one of the different tables with our parent groups and with our student groups as well. And again, the recognition that the work that our police department does was essential in students actually feeling safe at their campuses. So to say that expenditures for our police services that have really been geared towards a community policing strategy and to say it's somehow outside of our strategic plan and not directly portrayed in our LCAP meetings and everything is simply inaccurate. I participated directly in these, and it was one of our back then 9 groups that we coupled and kind of coalesced into like 7 groups, working groups that met all year for years, since we started our strategic planning process. So again, the way we report our LCAP funds are in base and supplemental as well. We report them all in our LCAP, basically strategic plan. So moving one from one category to another doesn't really address anything, if you ask me, like some recommendations were made. We can always decide where we want to spend money, but the community did endorse where we were focusing our community policing strategies and efforts in the numerous programs that we've created that's managed by our police departments. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. I don't see any other board comments. So before we move forward and conclude, first I want to say thank you, Mr. Fine. We appreciate you being here with us tonight and for all the comments. And we heard from the community, as we always do. It's very important to this board to hear the voice of the community. And oftentimes things do shift depending on what's going on. And we can say all of the things that we heard tonight, from wellness centers to supporting our African-American students, our English learners, family engagement, student engagement, these are all priorities of this board. And so as we continue to hear input, these are the decisions that we have to make as we allocate the funding. But it was important for us to be transparent, as I indicated at our previous board meetings, to let the community know, that these are the decisions that we're making. We're not doing anything without engaging or informing. We see that, as Mr. Gallo said, we as board members also try to spend time going to the meeting so we can hear it firsthand from our community, so we ensure that we're directing funding and allocating it appropriately. So thank you all again for the comments, and thank you for those that participated. And we are now going to move forward in our agenda. What I would like to do, I believe, Karen, I don't know if you've gotten your breath back for public comments, and I am not sure if our student board members are on any calls on this call. I haven't seen her, I'm not sure.
I haven't seen anything from the student board members, no.
Okay, great. And your public comments, do you have any of those before I move into the public hearings?
So you want to do public comments now?
Are there, yes, they've been waiting. I understand that we got a different system here, but I don't want to deviate too much.
Yes,
hi, sorry.
Comments.
Was that important?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, someone was speaking. I just
wanted to let it know I was here.
Okay, Kayla. Well, we're going to give you, as Karen is getting her breath and getting together on our public comments, would you like to go ahead and give us your comments tonight?
Oh, yes. Okay, I'll go. All right. Hello, Kayla Duhart, and today I just wanted to share that students are trying to make the best of what they have at this point. I know for seniors like myself, we are committing to our colleges and trying our best to keep updated with our classes and their assignments, which I imagine is the same for all students. We understand that you guys are doing all that you can to make the best of a bad situation, and we thank you for that. Getting comfortable with the new terms we are expected to follow is of course different, but just as hard as you are trying, we are doing the same. Thank you again for all your efforts and continued support for all SBCUSD students.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for representing the students tonight. We appreciate you. We know we went a little longer, but hopefully I'll be able to chime in on the meeting with some of the seniors as well this coming Friday. I know you guys will be giving us some more input about graduation. So thank you and appreciate your comments. All right, Karen, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, there are 7 public comments.
Okay.
The first one is from Mystique Pugh, P-U-G-H. She's a parent. And she asks, when do the kids from Cajon High School get their homework packets? The next one is from Daniel Ortega, a parent. And he says, when will our kids be receiving their Chromebooks? The next one is from Roberta Hosey. She's a parent. And She says, thank you for taking my comment. My question is regarding the 2020-2021 school year. Even though we have a few months to go, I am concerned about my daughter returning to her physical elementary school in August. Are there talks of continuing distance learning for the upcoming school year? If not, what is the process to homeschool for a year? Thank you. The next one is from, I believe it's Sulima Lopez, a parent. And she says, my comment is more like a suggestion. I think that COVID-19 has taken the class of 2020's dream away. They did not get a prom, grad night, senior prank, etc. And life is not fair. And I totally agree it sounds superficial given what is going on. But I think that district officials should make it a priority to try to give the class of 2020 a proper goodbye. I know it's not easy, but this is a time to get creative and work together to see what can be done. I am more than happy to volunteer to help with any such event, and I know that we can rally together as a community to be safe while giving a little back to our class of 2020. Thank you. Okay, our next one is from, it says Puga, P-U-G-A. I'm not sure if that's a first or last name. It's a parent. And they say, what instructions are being released in regards to distance learning for families? I am a parent of 4. I feel no clear productive instruction for distance learning is being provided. I occasionally receive links from teachers and principal, but no instruction. It's very frustrating as a parent to have no direction. I am currently working from home and now also trying to do the job of teachers that are still being paid to teach. A 10-minute meeting a day or once a week Google Classroom meeting is not enough for our students, not to mention the malfunctioning of submitting work. SBCUSD students are not receiving the distance learning education they should, while SBCUSD employees continue to receive pay. What is being done, or do you foresee being done, to hold schools more accountable to provide clear instruction and pay teachers to provide more instructional teaching time to students? Next one is from Treasure Ortiz, a San Bernardino City community member. My name is Treasure Ortiz, and I am a resident of the city of San Bernardino. Over the last few weeks, many parents in the city have been reaching out to an amazing community leader, Tina Lopez, and asking what could be done to still celebrate the accomplishments of the senior class with the closure of the schools through the end of the year and the current social distancing measures in place. I know that the district has been very busy with the implementation of distance learning, securing access to technology for students, and other important issues. But in these conversations with parents, they have voiced their frustration with the lack of communication from the district about graduation, prom, and other activities, and feel their seniors are being forgotten during a very important time in their lives. Tina has reached out to me and asked if I had thoughts and would help put something together for the seniors, and I have enthusiastically agreed. With that said, I am reaching out to you to see if there is anything already being planned that we could join forces on and help with. I saw and shared the post about the senior spotlight and think that is a great first step. We have been discussing coordinating a drive-by parade in May for seniors at their respective high schools, but I have been informed that some members of our city PD are not in favor because of the possible addition to their workload. That type of thinking leads me to wonder how many of their own children are graduating from a San Bernardino high school. I would really hope that everyone in our community would want to put in a little extra effort to make sure these hardworking young women and men get full acknowledgement of this milestone. And I know there are some people who feel this topic is trivial or teens should get over it, but I couldn't disagree more. I'm 35 years old and I was supposed to graduate in June as well, and now everything is up in the air for me too. And honestly, the not knowing is a total bummer, no matter your age. The feeling that parents and graduates feel right now is valid. Wanting your moment, wanting to thank your family, being the first in your family to get a diploma, that all deserves to be celebrated. And I wanted you to know you have members in the community that are willing to come out during this unprecedented time and help in any way that you may need. Thank you. The next one is from Iris Wyndham. She is a San Bernardino City teacher. I wanted to say just how proud I am to work for this school district. I don't know what other districts have done or are doing during this stressful time, but I have had the privilege to sit in on the board discussions over the course of the past few weeks, and I am so proud of your openness and transparency. I can proudly say that I work in an environment where the words and deeds align. Your willingness to support all of the members of the SBCUSD family, the students, teachers, administrators, food service workers, classified staff, families, and community is clearly the cornerstone for all of your decisions and actions. I am grateful for the attention to detail and the care and concern that our administrators put into making sure that the needs of our neediest were met. Instead of leaning on, as some larger school districts are doing, and waiting for handouts and donations, you have been leaning in and searching for avenues to provide the essentials to make sure that none of our families have gone without. Thank you for the technical support and professional development that was so crucial to everyone's success. It was so refreshing to hear the positive accolades for the teams of educators, program facilitators, and technical support team who worked so hard to identify best practices and deliver the best foundational support they could in such a short time span. Thank you for acknowledging that we are traveling in uncharted waters and for recognizing that we all have a very broad learning curve. I especially appreciate the commitment that I heard from board members to ensure that any equipment and supplies that were consumed because of the distribution of necessary materials would immediately be restocked to ensure that we start off the new year prepared to meet the needs of our returning students. It goes without saying that the uncontentious way that the board interacts with our Students Association and Classified Union is truly gratifying. We work and live in a community that truly cares about the people in it. We can't say that this is the case everywhere. That's why I'm so glad that I am here. Thank you for all that you do. Okay, and that was it. That was all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Dr. Volkermer, you were taking notes as well. We have some school sites to reach out in reference to Chromebooks and packets and things like that, but that's great. You know, we have the information and we know what the next steps are or the needs of the community. So thank you again, community, for your comments. We'll now move back to item 5.0, which are public hearings. So I will open up our public hearing. And we are now at 5.1, adoption of the 2021-2022 traditional school calendar.
There were no comments for that.
Okay. No comments?
So moved to accept the calendar. Dr. Flores.
Thank you. It was moved in. Is there a second? I think you raised your hand.
Second,
Okay.
Margaret Hill.
All right, it's moved and properly second for the school calendar. And
I have
we'll
a comment.
do you have a comment, Mr. Tillman? I saw something.
Yes, I put it in chat, yes.
Okay, ready. I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to look at moving the date out. I really think the August the 2nd date will be too soon to start. I think that because we took all the technology out of the classrooms, that's going to take time to, even if they're ordering, I hope they're ordering the equipment right now, but I know they have to take inventory of all the equipment that went out at the different sites. I think we gave out 27,000 additional devices from the classrooms. All of them are not the same devices. Some of them are iPads and those type of things. So it's going to take time to order that. and put it back into the school site. Also, I think we'd be a whole lot better off, for instance, if we started the first week of September instead of the first week in August, just to get they're talking about having medication that might be able to be used against some of the viruses. We know right now that the ability to identify and test and quarantine is not there right now in this area. So I think with time, there'll be more supplies available for testing, even for PPE. I don't think we can get all the hand sanitizer and gloves and masks. And maybe that's what should drive the start date. It doesn't make sense to give ourselves an artificial date that we're going to have to work harder to meet. So unless the staff can say for sure that we're going to have all the PPE to start school on August 2nd, I think we'd be a whole lot better off buying ourselves some time and starting in September.
Mr. Tillman, also this on item 5.1, that's for the calendar of 21-22. So we've already approved the current calendar. So that's something we would have to talk about later on as that date comes. But this is for.
And I thought at the last minute, I asked that we agendize it. Are we going to agendize the calendar for this coming year?
The current calendar? You know, we could, but I mean, I asked the same question.
I apologize.
Time. And the previous time when I looked at it, it was the same thing. It's 21-22 has nothing to do with what.
Oh, well, are we going to agendize the other one?
Board, I mean, if we'd like to look at agendizing, I think it'll be a good discussion.
I brought it up at the last meeting.
Okay, so we'll capture that this time for sure. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Thank you.
Dr. Flores?
Oh, okay.
Dr. Flores? Dr. Flores, I believe you put your comments in to speak, or Dr. Volkermer, were you going to make the correction on the year, the calendar, right?
Yes,
okay.
correct.
That's what I thought. Okay. It's you, Dr. Flores, it's you. Are you on mute? No?
It won't go off.
Okay, there you go. Uh-oh. You're muted. We can't hear you.
I think Mike is controlling your microphone.
Yeah, I move that we continue that.
I can't. Okay, Dr. Flores, we can't hear you. Don't know why.
There I am. My mic would go on. I was just going to also clarify for Danny that was for the 21-22 calendar. And I do agree with him that we should agendize the start of school for this coming year. I do agree with you, Danny.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion,
Yeah, I have.
Did you have something, Mr. Gallo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd suggest if we agendize it, we ask a representative of the calendar committee to come and be prepared to speak at that discussion.
Okay.
That we just want to honor the work.
I agree. Dr. Volkermer, you can let us know when that can happen. I believe Ms. Rosales Medina, I see you on there. Oh, you just said you support agendizing.
I say that I support it as well, and that would have been in my public comments. I'm just making sure we do address it.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Hill? Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt? Dr. Wyatt? I see him saying it. Okay, he gave me a thumbs up. Okay. And Gwen Rogers, aye. All right, motion carried. Thank you. 5.2, Memorandum of Understanding, Coronavirus Response between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and California School Employees Association, and it's Chapter 183.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. I don't believe there was any comments on that, Karen. If so, click in before I take the vote.
No, you're correct. There were no comments on that.
All right, thank you.
I actually have a comment.
Okay.
I really, as many of you know, I really wrestled with this one. And it was specifically with regard to the time and a half consideration. And I'm wrestling with it on a kind of a fundamental issue. I see people who are in real, quote, danger, i.e. our healthcare workers that are treating COVID patients, many police departments, our fire departments, et cetera, that are really interacting daily with our public. And they're not getting any, additional pay for, for showing up to work and things. So, and I just think about the 50% of our San Bernardino citizens that are now out of work, not being paid. I think of these considerations, and yet I'm torn with, wanting to support our workforce and our classified workforce folks and the dedication that they've had in meeting meal needs, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not a ton of money. It's affordable now. I mean, is it affordable next year? Well, it's gonna hit us at some point in the future here. But I really had a lot of consternation about this. I want to support our classified people. I really do, and that's kind of my overriding concern. But just in thinking about our residents who are actually funding, through their taxpayer dollars, now dwindling because many are unemployed, and our people are still getting paid full salary, and I'm sure that they're all very grateful for that and everything. So, to get a 50% pay raise to come into the office is, it just doesn't seem to sit well with me. But again, in kind of show of support of our classified people, I'm inclined to kind of reluctantly, on principle, vote for this, and just show that we really do care for our staff and our people and want to see them thrive and succeed during crisis, and certainly appreciate them coming to work for meeting the needs of many of our parents out there, and quite frankly, putting themselves at more risk than others who are not coming in. So I just wanted to share my consternations with everybody and let you know kind of how I felt about it. It just really didn't sit well with me, but I really want to be supportive of our CSEA. So I just wanted to state that.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. And Ms. Rosales Medina?
I just wanted to mention that, just to kind of hopefully have Mr. Gallo feel a little bit better. I mean, it's unfortunate what those that are actually in the front line, nurses, grocery workers, although the grocery workers in some cases are actually earning what they deserve now. But it's unfortunate when you see other employment, those that are part of the necessity of working right now are not receiving what they should be receiving. And I think our school district has always set an example. When Redlands Unified School District employees came to our district, seeing how we can support them and so forth. There people are looking at what we're doing. And I think it's important for them to also feel appreciated, and also for those that are working right now when they don't have to work while everybody's at home. I think this is definitely the right thing to do. And also, just so you know, for small businesses up to 500, I mean, even with the federal government, with the PPP, which is a payroll protection program, I mean, they're covering 8 weeks of paid salary, so paid payroll. For that way, small business can still continue to pay their employees. So there's many avenues of how we can support, but I really do believe that our school district is doing what's right for our community. and making sure that the economy is also continuing here, at least through those that work within our district.
Thank you. And I believe Dr. Flores?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm having a difficulty with my computer. Something's wrong. Okay, here you go. I also support the paying our classified time and a half. They're out there doing the extra mile when they don't have to, and I think it's worthy to show them our appreciation and that we see them. We value their volunteerism, but also value their work. And I pray for them every day so that they are safe and they take precautions for their safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. And Mr. Gallo, you had a final comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something that I think I heard Abigail say, that the others aren't working. Well, I don't think we're giving everybody that this is a paid vacation for everybody. I'm sure we're going to be hearing from Dr. Volkemer at some point, what our classified staff are doing and can do to support the efforts of our school district and, some of the activities that we have been, deferring for many, many years, in some cases on systems improvement, et cetera, because it's been complicated by trying to run schools at the same time. So now's the time to really, we could certainly engage some of our classified workers in that amount of work as versus just non-engagement in any work activity and being paid for. So I'm not sure we said just go home and sit there and have a nice vacation. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's not the understanding I had from the governor's ruling.
Right, but even with the federal government, I guess I was referring to the PPP, is that there's that the extra funds for small businesses that are able to get covered 8 weeks in their home right now too.
That's already out of money. They're trying to authorize another $250 billion. They need to have almost $2 trillion if they're going to help every small business. And people are already laid off. You saw almost half of our residents in the city of San Bernardino are now unemployed.
Yeah, well, I guess that goes further because just a further discussion in that piece.
Do anything,
right?
Yeah.
And it's not helping our restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. But
well, if the corporations weren't getting a big chunk of it, it might have helped for the small businesses. But that's just a different story. Piece.
All right. Okay, board. So let's, Dr. Volkemer, did you want to give something before I call for this vote?
I just wanted to clarify, based on Mr. Gallo's comments, you'll be hearing a little bit in our COVID-19 update about getting our workforce moving and re-engaged. So we will be addressing the initial elements of our plan toward that in just a few minutes.
Okay. All right. Dr. Wyatt. Did you give me a thumbs up? Are you on mute? Okay. Ms. Rosales Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman? Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. We are now at 5.4. I believe there is a comment. Did I skip?
5.3.
5.3, I'm sorry. 5.3, Memorandum of Understanding Coronavirus Response, Addendum between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and California School Employees Association and its Chapter 183.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? All right. Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt? Dr. Wyatt? I don't know where Dr. Wyatt is. Something's going on with his, I think his mute button. Gwen Rogers, aye. Motion carried. All right, 5.4 Memorandum of Understanding School Closure Related to Coronavirus 19, COVID-19 between the San Bernardino City Unified School District and San Bernardino Teachers Association. I believe there is.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second, and I think there is Karen.
Yes, Ashley, Alcala Betis wants to make a comment if she's still there.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good evening, President Rogers, members of the board and cabinet. I am Ashley Betis Alcala, president of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. On Friday, April 10th, the district and SBTA came to agreement on an MOU that outlines the impact of the COVID-19 school closures and its effect on our working conditions. The MOU is before you this evening for approval. We believe it is a fair and reasonable agreement, and our bargaining team spent many hours working on it in collaboration with the district in order to support our unit members during this difficult time. Tonight, I urge you to vote to approve this agreement so that our transition to distance learning, which began yesterday, is able to continue with no disruption to our members. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you. Are there any other let's see. Are there any other comments? All right. Dr. Wyatt. Okay, he's having a problem. Okay. Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we are now at 9.1, the COVID-19 board update. Dr. Volkermer? There you are.
Actually, President Rogers, I think we had our reports and comments by our union organizations next.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did skip down. It went down too far. You're absolutely right. Let me go back to 8.1. Okay, 8.1, San Bernardino Teachers Association. Karen?
Good evening again.
Oh, okay, there she is.
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Good evening again, President Rogers. Ashley Betis Alcala, president of the San Bernardino Teachers Association, speaking tonight on behalf of the 3,000 members of SBTA. I just wanted to let you know that I'm happy to report that on our second day of distance learning, I have been hearing that educators who were anxious were very happy to see their students participating in the virtual environment. And their students have been very excited to see their teachers. This connection has brought a glimmer of hope to our crisis situation. And the flexibility in this new environment for our educators has allowed them to utilize their creative and technological skills while also supporting not only their students, but also pitching in to support their colleagues to bridge the digital divide. I do want to take a moment to sincerely thank all of the SBTA members, our teachers, counselors, speech language pathologists, psychologists, preschool and adult ed teachers who have worked tirelessly over the last several weeks to transition to the virtual learning environment and are maintaining that vital link between our students and our schools. I know that in the coming months, we have a lot to consider as a district regarding the implications of the school closures and the eventual reopening of the schools. In particular, one decision that you already discussed this evening has to do with our school calendar, which has already been approved for next year. Moving forward, I want to be clear that SBTA will continue to be a collaborative partner on decisions that affect our bargaining unit. However, we expect to continue to be included in these conversations. We want to be able to assure our members that as a district is making sound decisions with all of the knowledge that we have available to us. And we know there are a lot of factors that we'll have to consider that have not continued, that will continue to play out over the next few months. And as I said at the last meeting, I want to again remind you that it is our hope as we move forward that we also remember to consider the magnitude of this virus and its effect on our members, our students, and their families, And we continue to encourage everyone to be patient and understanding as we all learn together in this new environment. Thank you also for your support and your time.
Thank you. All right, 8.2, California School Employees Association. Karen, is there anyone on the line?
Shane, I'm on the line.
Hi. Hey there. We see you.
I guess I should introduce myself this time instead of the last time, just going by Shane. So Shane, first Vice President of CSEA for the state of California and the Administrator of Chapter 183. Also, I have on the line is Juanita Upshaw, who is the Secretary for CSEA as well. And she's on the line. I just want to personally thank each and every one of you for the job you do. You are community anchors for strength and vision of the future in your position of authority. During this time, we have learned the answer we give today may not be the answer we give tomorrow, and the answer we receive on any given day may be not the answer we want to hear. This is all an ever-changing landscape. Members of CSEA Chapter 183 are career professionals that want jobs, hours, salaries, benefits, and retirements built on solid rock. I not only respect your board decision tonight, but applaud the tough decision to recognize the essential worker. By recognizing the risk and effort of classified employees to show at a time of fear has lasting far beyond this quarantine impact, positive impact. Board, remember, your light shines no matter what direction you face. You extend a piece of your spirit on every decision, call, or Zoom meeting you're involved in. You will also leave your spirit behind each time. Let your light shine inward as well as outward, so that what you do offer of yourself might be a beacon to others to illuminate your own path in this time of unknown and ever-changing scenarios. You know, this is a very, very tough time, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for making that tough decision tonight. It will have lasting impact, and I will end with letting Juanita Upshaw speak briefly on her feelings as a member of 183.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Juanita Upshaw. I am the chapter treasurer for San Bernardino 183. I, as a classified member, would like to thank the board for passing the MOU between SBCUSD and CSEA and for recognizing the hard work of the classified employees of the district. As you know, our goal is to provide the best service possible by embracing the work we do, not just as a job, but as supporting our family, the San Bernardino City Unified School District. We want to sincerely thank you for recognizing that what we do is not easy, but is a necessary component of keeping our district running at an optimum level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your comments. We're now moving to 8.3, Communication Workers of America.
There's no comment for that.
All right. 8.4, San Bernardino School Police Officers Association.
I don't believe there's one for that either.
All right.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I'm sorry, Karen.
Is that Aaron?
This is Daniel, ma'am.
Is it okay? It's popping up. Okay, I see it now.
Good evening, board president, board members, cabinet, superintendent. This is Daniel Arias, the POA president for our association. First and foremost, I want to just thank all of you guys for your hard work and dedication. I know you guys have been extremely busy, and at the same time, I want to thank and just recognize everybody who's working together district-wide, you know, school administrators, all the principals, the teachers, our classified staff. I think we're all in this together. You know, this is something new for all of us, but, you know, you can see the team effort that the district is implementing and everybody working collaboratively during these tough times. I don't have much to say, but I do just want to highlight some of the things that our officers have been doing since this pandemic started and before the pandemic. as you guys know, since the school shut down, we were the only department that continued to be out in the field, and we continue to do so. We are dedicated to this district, to our community members, to our students, to our staff, to our district property. Our 16 officers that we have right now currently working, they have all, rised up to the level of this occasion, and they are committed. We haven't had a call off. People are tired, but we are committed to serve this district at a high level. Since this pandemic has started, we've had a shooting at Del Vallejo where a subject was shooting into classrooms. He was arrested. Just yesterday, we had a shooting just outside of San Gregorio High School where juveniles were present. We were there. We've had multiple burglaries where we've caught the suspects. And like I said, what I'm trying to say is I just want to highlight my guys and my girls. We have female officers as well. And I don't know if the community is aware, but I want you guys to know that although we might be a small department, we might have, not a lot of members, but we're out there. We're being effective. We're out there as, 24/7. So I just want to just, highlight our officers and their efforts, everything that they're doing. We're humans, just like everybody else. We're humans, and even though we've had some members that were, a little scared with this whole pandemic, we don't want to take stuff to our families. We come here every day, we strap our boots on, we don our uniform, we go out there, and we represent this district. We represent this city. So I just want to let our community members know that we're out there. Call us if you guys need anything. Para nuestra comunidad que habla español, si me están escuchando, soy el oficial Arias del Departamento de Policía aquí en el Distrito Escolar de San Bernardino. Y les quiero decir que nosotros estamos aquí para ayudarles. Estamos todo el departamento estamos dedicando nuestro tiempo. Estamos día y noche para lo que ustedes ocupen. Y esta es nuestra misión, nuestra meta, es siempre ayudar, ¿verdad?, a nuestra comunidad del distrito de San Bernardino, sea con cualquier cosa que ocupen, por favor llámenos y ahí vamos a estar para ayudarles. Thank you guys very much, board president, board members. I just want to shout out my guys and let you guys know that we're here, we're working hard, and that, we're passionate about what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. All right, we will now move back to 9.1 again, the COVID-19 board update. Dr. Volkermer.
Thank you, President Rogers. As David's bringing up the slides,
Okay.
I just want to say we're going to bring you an update on our efforts in response to the coronavirus pandemic. And I want to share up front that our presentation covers a lot because a lot has been done. You've heard me, I think, use the expression before. These teams are not just moving mountains, they're moving mountain ranges. And so we would ask for your patience this evening as we share updates around a number of fairly major projects. Our objective really is just to make sure that you have the information you need to share as you travel throughout the community. So I'll get through my slides fairly quickly. You'll notice we changed the subtitle of our presentation. It did used to say, doing our part to flatten the curve. We've gotten a new edict from the governor, and that is it's been flattened. Now we want to bend it down to a decrease in the other direction. So that we're going to continue to do our part to bend the curve. So David, next slide, please. Our objectives tonight are just to update you on the district operations in response to the pandemic and review just some of the metrics, not all of them, that the district is using to measure our progress as we move forward. Next slide, David. And we want to just remind you, board, of our core values. They are ensuring that all students have meaningful learning activities through distance learning, beginning just yesterday through the end of the school year. That's our primary focus, and that's the thing that we're really most intending to accomplish. While we're doing that, obviously, we want to minimize exposure for staff and students. And then our third objective, which we added this time, is using the COVID-19 crisis to focus on systems improvement and building the capacity of our team. When we're done with this crisis, whenever that happens to occur, we want to emerge better than when we started. And we're very focused on that. The number of initiatives, one of which I'll introduce a little bit later during my comments. But those are our core values that we're keeping in mind as we do our work. So we'll move to the next slide, David, please. And we'll turn it over to Tom first.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Volkemer. This came up earlier. I know Mr. Gallo discussed this a little bit. So obviously we do have employees that are working at home and could have other things to do. We understand that. So here's our objectives: to provide robust training to re-engage our employees. And like that comment says, we want to come back stronger and better than ever. Also, making contact with students and families as we get through the distance learning. Compassionate checks has been a term that's been used, but we're going to have a lot of families to contact and students if they're not on the program, on the distance learning program. Also completing projects that in a normal time we haven't been able to get to. So, and that includes training also. So next slide, please. Kind of two levels here. We have the district level training and support, and that would align with any district priorities. For example, the community engagement plan would be an example, and then offering more structured, tailored training based on specific job classifications. And we see this as not only a short-term issue for the next few months, but also a long-term. It won't just stop, let's say in June, a long-term, something that we can continue on with in terms of training. And the next slide, please. These are, I would say, our guiding or essential questions that we're going to be working on as a department and bringing not only our unions, but administrators, other people involved in this plan. So number one, I talked about a little bit earlier, improving the relationships that we have not only with students and the families. High quality customer service. I know Linda Bardier has done a lot on this, and we're working with her to take that over and work that in with our plan. Efficiency there through technology. And the next two are very similar, but what do we need for each classification of job to make that person stronger? And then must-haves for them. So the very last one are leadership capacity through human capital systems. So we're going to work with not only our unions, but like I said, other administrators, staff in the district to get our employees up and going as quickly as possible with our training. We do have trainings that are free that are offered through our target solutions. So we can get started very quickly on that. We will also have a report back for you at the next board meeting to see what we've done in the coming 2 weeks. And that's it for my section.
Good evening, board. I just wanted to fill you in on the data related to our communication efforts for our parents, employees, and students. We continue to maintain a constant flow of information via robocalls, social media, website updates, and our employee newsletter that is going out. Next slide. Our printing services team remains fully engaged in supporting the needs of our students. They're working with a skeleton crew, but they've managed to produce lots of printing requests, including some large requests for our special needs students and their learning packets, as well as learning packets for our English learners. And we have also printed letters for all families across the district in preparation for successful launch of our district learning. The team in communications has also helped with several school board meetings that we've recorded, a special video message from our Board of Education to our families related to distance learning, and we've supported requests from the Personnel Commission to live stream their meetings as well. And this concludes the information from communications.
Well, good evening, board. Just providing you an update on your incident management team. So the slide you see here is our current structure of the folks that we have that are managing the boots on the ground crisis daily to meet the needs from the board and from cabinet. And so we have a wide variety of folks that are on the team from different areas of the district that are helping us manage this and making sure we're recovering costs and tracking costs, and that we're able to get the supplies needed for both now and, as Mr. Tillman talked earlier, moving into the future and looking into what our needs are going to be as we return into our new normal. Next slide, please. So this dashboard you may be familiar with. This comes from the County of San Bernardino. These are this is the COVID dashboard that the county provides, and it's updated daily. So you'll see that of the patients tested within our county, there's over 1,400 that are positive. We do have 67 deaths within the county. In the city of San Bernardino, there are 164 positive cases in the city and 58 in the city of Highland. Statewide, we're watching this as we hear from the governor and as we're all following. There was a slight increase, about 2.8% this week in ICU admissions, and that was following a week of relatively stagnant numbers. So we're kind of at that point where we think the curve is starting to shift. We do want to make sure that we are still adhering to the stay-at-home orders, and we're still adhering to all the precautions that we have in place so that we can keep this in a downward trend. Next slide, please. So some of the work that we did since we last shared with you a couple weeks ago is we're still safely managing the daily in-district work activities of the folks that are in. So we're paying attention to the departments and the sites and tracking the numbers that are in to make sure that we keep it at a reasonable, manageable level for essential duties within our district. We're currently working with the Ed Services team to get the learning resources out to our TK through first graders. And today we delivered 12 3D printers from Bing Wong Elementary to Loma Linda University. They had a request into us to produce personal protective equipment. And so they had that need, and so we were able to help fulfill that need. And they're also going to be making some of these items for our frontline workers, including our school police and food services that are on the front lines every day. So we'll be getting them some equipment as well. And then coordinating our device distribution. That was a heavy lift last week and a couple days this week, and I'll show you the data from that in the next slide. So our current device distribution, and the objective was to provide a device to all TK through 12th grade students. Phase 1 occurred last week, and that was at every single school site. So every school met the needs of their families, and we had a very hardworking team of device movers constantly that were shifting devices from one site to another, trying to keep the items within a school's cluster to meet the needs of the families that were coming. We wanted to make sure that the families were able to get a device at whatever school they showed up at. So if I have 5 children and I showed up at one of my children's schools, we wanted to make sure that they were able to receive all 5 devices at that school and they weren't having to bounce around the school district. So phase 2 is occurring tomorrow and Thursday. We will have a regional distribution at the 6 comprehensive high schools. And we're also going to be doing technical support at those locations. So if families received their devices last week and they got home and having some type of technical issue logging on, we want to provide that support so they can come to any one of those locations the next 2 days to do that. And then our metrics below. So we believe at this point, we have about 34,000 students, just under 35,000, that we can say have a device issued by the SBCUSD in their home. And 20,000 of those, just under 21,000 of those have been issued to date just through the COVID response. And so we believe that there's about 20 to 25% of our students who will not come get a device simply because they don't need one in their home. They have other devices already that they're able to use. And we're constantly monitoring that. That number will adjust as we move forward. So thank you.
IT has worked with the team and they've identified about 2,600 hotspots that are needed. We expect 3,500 in early May and heard that 600 arrived today in the warehouse, so those will be distributed. We have a phone number here. Parents can call this number and they can work through their school sites if they require a hotspot. So we feel pretty good about that and hope to get those hotspots even sooner than next week. Student emails have been rolled out. We know that it's an important part of 21st century skills. Responsible use of technology is an essential part of digital literacy. We've provided all K-12 grade students with safeguards, including Gaggle, third-party proactively monitoring student emails. Next slide, please. Nutrition services, we've added 2 locations, Arrowview and King Middle Schools. On April 27th, they'll begin the 2 additional sites for a total of 9 sites providing meals for our students and our most vulnerable learners to receive the same meal via direct delivery. Our average daily total is over 8,700 meals served, plus the 856 that are delivered to our most vulnerable students. The total meals distributed for the week, about 48,000. And we have received some messages on our hotline, some thank yous, some dietary requests, and so that's been helpful. Next slide.
Apologize, I was talking and I forgot I was on mute. Okay, I'm back. I apologize. Well, so good evening, board. I'm pleased to update you on the work of the Special Education Department. Just a reminder that the district is still held accountable to state and federal legal mandates to the greatest extent possible. And so this means we have to really make an honest effort to provide services and meet legal requirements outlined in the Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA, to the greatest extent possible. And so this work is a shared responsibility. This slide outlines what that shared responsibility looks like in terms of the Special Education Department and then our school IEP teams. So the Special Education Department has been very busy developing guidance documents, then training staff and principals and site leaders, and then they'll be monitoring the implementation. Examples of that work include a compliance calendaring plan. Sites have already been trained on that. They just finished up developing a remote IEP guidance, and they're finalizing a service delivery model guidance. Those 2 things will be shared with our unions, and then we will finalize them and then train up our school teams so that they can implement them. And then the Special Ed Department will monitor the implementation, and all of our guidance documents are based off of state and federal mandates. And then the role of the school IEP teams and their responsibility is to prioritize and schedule the remote IEPs for the students whose IEPs needed to have been addressed from the date we closed school, so March 13th through the end of the school year. So they have a process by which to do that. They are to be connecting with the families that they serve at their schools and scheduling those IEPs. And then they are to be documenting services that they're providing, that specifically our teachers and our case carriers, and documenting when they hold their IEPs in the compliance calendaring plan. So you can see that it is a shared responsibility to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our special education children. Next slide, please. So in terms of metrics, we, as a reminder board, the Special Education Department has committed to reaching out to our parents on Wednesdays. And so as of last Wednesday, we've had 12,129 calls received. And those calls are coming from Dr. Lundy and or a designee, where they're just letting them know what's going on in the district level. Ms. Christakos already shared the meal distribution. Just a reminder, when we say our most vulnerable, we're talking about our medically fragile and severely handicapped students. And so 856 meals distributed through direct delivery. And once we get our remote IEPs scheduled, I'll start coming back with how many have been held either by phone or virtually. That won't take place until the beginning of May. That is it for special education.
Good evening, board. It's my pleasure to provide an update related to the work of Student Services Division in collaboration with all of our other district divisions. The update tonight will specifically address the support that our families are being provided related to distance learning and the mental health supports that are being provided to students, along with data related to childcare, student participation, and bullying. Next slide, please. The following slide outlines the ongoing data that will be shared during future board presentations. So you see the distance learning participation, that data will be gathered in multiple layers and reported back out to our board at each board meeting. The Google Classroom usage data reports will show how students are logging into their distance learning opportunities daily, as well as a mechanism through Aries, which will track our students' weekly participation, which teachers will report weekly. Our childcare information will reflect our efforts around childcare. And you can see that currently we are supporting 26 families. We have one family that is pending. We're working with them currently to get them the access that they need to the appropriate childcare. I want to draw your attention to the numbers that have decreased in spaces available, just as a note. This is a result of some of our home child care centers changing their parameters and not allowing the same number that they had previously been allowing. But you can see that we still have a very generous cushion there. And we feel like we don't have so many families in the pipeline that we will not be able to meet their needs with the current 211 spaces available. As far as the data around bullying, we have one new case reported. I'm sorry, I couldn't see my own screen. The intervention team will begin the screening and deploy the team as needed. I do want to note that we also had cases that we're working to close out prior to COVID. So I want to reassure the board that any cases that were open before we went into the stay-at-home order and our distance learning, we are still continuing to address those students' needs for safety and addressing the bullying. Next slide. That brings me to the various information related to parent workshops. We have quite a few things going on. We heard parents asking for that support and recognized early on that in order for our youngest students to be successful with their distance learning, this would require us to also respond to the needs of our families. So we started with an initial intro to Google Classroom, and we did that in a pilot form last week on Thursday and Friday. We are now actually up to 6 sessions per week based on the number of people that are asking for this and the number of seats that we have available. And we'll continue to make those adjustments. As more and more people are asking for, we have the ability and capability to continue to meet that need by adding more spaces to the sessions that we already have planned. Something really neat that came out of the sessions that we've already held is this question and concern and comment around how do I access Aries? So in response to those questions, we put together a workshop around Aries and helping parents navigate that. We will continue to do this to meet the need of our family and our entire community as they share with us new needs. We will respond to them. Actually, while we were in this board meeting, I had a principal texting about some support around a little more technical pieces of Google Classroom, connected that principal with our director for family engagement, and they're working on meeting that specific school's need. We are here to serve, and that is our sole desire. So we will continue to build and offer parent workshops as they are needed. The other piece that I want to draw your attention to is the parent resources. Dr. Mitchell brought that up last week, and I just really, for our community's benefit, wanted to keep including these resource pages in our workshop. In our presentation, so that parents know where they can go for workshops. And we are, as well as putting this on our district website, getting information out on all of our social media, We're holding out all the stops to ensure that our families have this information and we're able to provide the support that they need. Next slide. So board, we shared this graphic with you before, but as a reminder to our community, we're going to provide it again because I want to make sure that all of the folks who are watching see that there is a very clear process. If you need anything, we are here to help. And so normally schools have a referral process that ensures students receive the services needed. During the COVID event, we have streamlined the process to ensure families receive all the necessary services in a one-stop shop process. So as school administrators and staff discover that a student or a family has a need, they'll refer that family or student to the counselor. The counselor will determine if the need can be addressed by the school site, by either the counselor or any other support staff on campus. If not, then the counselor will refer the family to the Student Wellness and Support Services team. The Swiss Wellness team will contact the family and determine all of the family's needs and services and complete the necessary referrals in district or with our community partners. And I'll share updated data related to those referrals on my last slide with you this evening. We can move to slide 20, the next slide, please. So as we shared in the previous slide, our counselors play a primary role in supporting the mental health of our students. The roles and responsibilities that I'll be sharing with the board tonight were developed collaboratively involving our counseling team, as well as SBTA representation. The example that you see here outlines the essential role of a high school counselor in our new environment, broken down by the 3 areas of support that they provide to all students. So you see that our counselors serve a multifaceted approach and meet multifaceted needs of students, broken down by academic in the blue, college and career in the green, and social emotional in that peach color. And so what we've outlined is specifically what counselors will be doing in each of the tiers of support. And these are their essential duties. All counselors will be engaging in these type of activities. So academically, they will be providing articulation support, so support for 8th graders who are transitioning into 9th grade. They've developed school counseling websites in their own Google Classroom so that they can meet the needs of students that way, as well as doing things around the college and career piece, like reviewing transcripts and supporting access to A through G credit recovery. And also in the domain of social emotional, providing SEL mini lessons, and this is where they're partnering with classroom teachers to have access to the classroom so that they are meeting the needs of students. And we know we've heard and we continue to hear that we need to think about our students and their wellness in this time, and that is very much on the forefront of our team's mind. And so these are the essential things that all of our counselors will be providing in support of the academic environment. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to share the work and support that the HEART team is offering. So the HEART team are the specific group who provide therapy. So we move in from counseling into that next layer, that next tier, so to speak. So the HEART team has researched and collaborated with a variety of other districts. I mean, the reach out to other districts has been phenomenal because we're all trying to figure out how do we do the virtual service. And so they have developed a virtual service model, and I will comment that we are on the forefront of this. Other districts are now asking and reaching out to us to help them through this process. They worked with our legal team to create consent forms for virtual therapy to ensure the safety of both our students as well as staff. And they are making personal contact with all families that have been receiving therapy at any point and introducing them to the new therapy protocols and beginning services that started this week. I'm excited to share that. Thank you. And the last and final slide just outlines the referrals. So you see, I shared with you the data in our pre-COVID. That was the last data that I shared with you at our last board meeting. So as far as counselor referrals, we're 2 days into the distance learning piece, and we've had 10 referrals to counselors, and we have a very nice way of tracking this data, so it's real time. It gets updated almost every day, every day and a half, as people come in and log into and add to the documents that we have going. The wellness team referrals, and I want to remind you, the wellness team is that group that once a counselor says, you know what, this is beyond my scope, then it goes to the wellness team. We have had 12 referrals and working with families to meet their needs. And then the IEHP Navigator, I want to remind you that they provide both physical and mental health services. It's gone from 463 to 469, so only 6 referrals, but we'll continue to track that data. We have 2 contracts that are being finalized right now related to partnerships with folks who will help us meet the needs of our community. I really want our community to know that we have partnered with a variety of people within our community to make sure we have the capacity to meet the needs out there. So please reach out to your school, reach out to your school counselor when you are in need. That's what we are here for. You see the Victor Community Support Services referrals, that's gone up quite a bit. You see the number that we're servicing. We don't have any completed because these are people that we will continue to work with. You will see eventually folks go into that completed pattern, but it will probably take some time. As you can imagine, the needs are on an uprise right now. And then just wanted to provide some data around the HEART team. So our therapists have currently, the caseload of 109 have been personal contact with 95. They're still working on some of those personal contacts. And then we have, tracking the data so much so that we're seeing the number of families refused, which happens occasionally. But, we do our best to ensure that if there's a referral, we're seeing it completely through. And so we're pleased to share that data. I thank you for your time and allowing me to provide these updates this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. And Dr. Mitchell, I know yours is usually the meat of it all, tying it all together. And we have our board members. I want to ask, starting with Dr. Flores and Mr. Gallo and Dr. Hill and Ms. Medina, and your questions were probably on the previous slides?
Yes, mine is.
All righty.
I would like to ask, well, first of all, thank you so much, everybody. It's really, how do I say, that's a lot of work. Everyone has done tremendous work. It's just very uplifting to know that you're there and that you guys are doing such a great job. It really, really is. And my question is for Janie. And Janie, I'm so thankful that you are including King and Arrowhead as other sites for distribution of meals. It's still gnawing on me because we have 49,000+ students, and we're only providing like 2,400, and then we multiply them by 3 or 5 or 2, and it still doesn't even come close to all the kids that we were feeding, every day. Do you happen to have the total number of meals, that breakfast and lunch, that we were providing before the COVID?
Yes, we were providing almost 40,000 meals a day.
Yes, so it's worrisome for me because as we move into more and more weeks, I'm not kidding you guys. I wake up at night thinking about the kids and our families, and do they have enough food, and so forth. And as a professor, I did a lot of student teaching observations, so I know our schools really well. And I think about Rio Vista. I think about Salinas. They're far apart. I think about Vermont. I know we have I know we have Muscoy, but Vermont has over 700 kids. And so I just am really concerned. And if it's 40,000 meals a day, and we're only doing 2,800 or almost 3,000, where are the rest, the 37,000 other meals? So I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind and in your heart, in terms of, what we need to do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gallo.
Yes, I, as some of you know, I've had a sister, I do have a sister that works in this district as a kindergarten teacher for 36 years. And I was wondering if she could avail herself to some behavioral health services after figuring out how to do these Google classrooms and get all of this stuff going. I hear from teachers that they've never worked so hard on trying to get this distance learning stuff, really, and they're very conscientious about the work that they're doing, trying to be innovative, trying to design their critical kind of engagement exercises to do and things. So I really got to give it to our teachers. They really are doing an admirable job here. This is a complete shift in the way that they probably learned and grew up on how to teach, so to speak, and now we're throwing them into a digital environment in the 21st century that is requiring some of them to probably put their hands on a computer more than they ever have. And I'll tell you, I'm seeing some really innovative lessons and hands-on project-based activities that are simple to do, don't require much material, and just kind of fun things, doing videos, doing all kinds of really fun things like that. I know Dr. Mitchell is probably going to tell us some of that stuff as he pitches through this Google Classroom stuff, but I just had to make that comment about the real, I think, movement that we've seen our teachers go to in seeing that our students are provided with the best instructional practices that we can initiate. So I know that some of our parents might be frustrated out there, as we kind of heard in some of the comments and things. And by the way, I'm sure we're going to reach out to some of those people and share some of the data that we've already heard about, like tomorrow's and the next days at the various high schools, giving out computers. One was asking, I remember, how do I get a computer? When am I going to get a Chromebook, or where do I get one? So we could reach out again, maybe to that individual. And, I think the operative word is, we just started this a couple days ago, right? I forget the exact date, but I want to say the 15th, but
yesterday.
Yeah, it's only been a day. So, we're only a couple days into this, and this was wholesale new instructional developments that our teachers are developing. So it'll roll out and get better and better as we go, I know, and just want to applaud our staff and also students who have been participating in this as well. Thank you.
Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a couple of comments. And one, I just want to say thanks to all of you for all the hard work, your dedication, and the work you're doing in the district. I think the message that we heard from one of the teachers, Ms. Wyndham, probably shared the message for all of you, because I know that you are home working hard, trying to get things going. I did want to first address Dr. Flores. Dr. Flores, we want you to be able to sleep at night, but want you to know that Al Center has, they are a food station, and they're right around the corner from Vermont. They're probably closer to Vermont and Muscoy, but they opened up their other building, which is on 19th Street, almost directly in front of Ingram Elementary School. So that's two more sites. And of course, we know Project Fighting Chance, which is down by Mount Vernon Elementary School. And there are many others. A lot of people out there are providing food to our young people. So I just want to let you know that there are those avenues for young people to get food. As I listened and I heard you, Dr. Perez, talking about the parents and that you're going to do some type of training for the parents. I just like to recommend when you train the parents, ask that a student be next to them because our young people really catch on very fast. So, so when you talk to a parent, go through the routine with a parent on how to do something. This is a good time for the student to also become a coach to the parent. So you might want to make that recommendation. And the other thing is, I'm pleased when I see the teachers, when I see on social media people complaining, they're not complaining, but they're frustrated because they can't get something. And then there are other teachers who say, don't worry about it, I'll help you. So I just want to commend those teachers for giving their extra time to help the fellow employees. But I don't know if you had considered at some point doing a parent survey. And on the parent survey, very simple, is what's your learning level with distance learning? And if you could do something like excellent, good, fair, poor, you don't want to know, in any of those could be options. And that way, and just ask them that one question. That way you'll be able to group how many people who have really gotten it and how many people who are still, trying to figure out how to turn on the computer. So I wanted to say to all of you, did a wonderful job tonight, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hill. And I believe we had Ms. Rosales Medina.
Yes, thank you again for the presentation. I know we still have more to discuss in the future slides, but I do want to get some clarification. So just want to, with Janie Christakos, you mentioned there was 20,934 devices distributed. And then there's 34,000 total students with district devices. I just wanted to clarify, is that from the beginning of the school year, or the 20,000 is just recently? If you can clarify a little bit.
Yeah, I'll have Mr. Batir step in. I do know that we've had devices over, as you know, the Chromebook initiative has been going on for years. There were some that had to be replaced that might have been broken. And so if Eric is still on the line.
I am. So the 20,934, those were distributed to date during the COVID crisis.
Okay.
So the total number, the 34,865, that's including the Chromebook initiative that has been going on for a few years now. Some of those had come back in during this process as well that were broken or damaged, and so but that's the total is the 34,000.
Okay, so but 20,000 was just during the COVID these past few weeks that we've been trying to get.
Correct, and that's not including what we may have distributed the next 2 days at the high school. So after the 2 days, we'll be able to give you guys an update through Dr. Volkemer.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. And then also with regards to the meals, I know that there was a discussion on meals. I wanted to get the total. I missed the total, so I know that there was 8,700 meals served, and then of course with the 856 for those that are vulnerable. What was the total meal served to date?
The total to date, I don't know that I have that right on hand, but we can get that to you.
Wasn't it in the slide? I think it was 40-something hundred.
Yeah, that was like for the week.
Okay.
So if you want, ever since this has happened, I can get that to you.
Okay, that would be great. And then going towards special education, I do have a question regarding the IEP and what that really looks for families. I think in one of the slides you mentioned it would be phone calls. I didn't get the other piece. What does that look like for families? Because when you mention, remote IEP, when you mention, honestly, what does that really look like for families? Because those are some of the questions I get. Does that look like when if you can explain a little bit more.
Sure, absolutely. So what's happening right now, our IEP teams at our schools are calling the families that fall within the range from March 13th, when school closed, until the end of the school year, where they were to have an IEP, whether that's an annual or triannual, or the parent has requested an IEP. So that's the target group that the schools are calling, and then they're asking the parents. So your IEP is upcoming. You have some choices. Do you want to have a phone IEP? And so they can do that, and they would set up the IEP, and it would be through phone, so telephonic. That's not the ideal, but some families, that's what they're asking for. The ideal is to do like what we're doing right here, where they would have a virtual IEP. And so in order to do that, of course, then the team would work with the parent to make sure that they have an email address and get them all set up and make sure that they can actually hold this actual IEP. And that's taking some time to make sure that we can actually do this remotely, because we don't want to frustrate parents and we don't want to frustrate staff. But now we have a process by which we're going to be able to get those IEPs signed and all of that. And then the IEP would be held. We're going to use DocuSign. And so some of us are familiar with DocuSign. It's a secured way to sign off documents. You might do them for a loan or those kind of things. It's all done digitally. So that they'll get their IEP signed, and then they'll get a final copy of it when it's all done, and that'll all be emailed to them. And translation will also be included in all of that. So you can imagine that there's a lot of back work the team has had to do in order to be able to hold these remote IEPs. And there are some families, Ms. Medina, that are saying, I don't want to have an IEP right now. I want to wait until school comes back into session. And that is also their option. It's our responsibility to document that, that we have reached out to them and that the family has elected to wait until school gets in session. So there's 3 different ways that they can do the IEPs. We're hoping that most of our families will do virtual IEPs, because we are cognizant that when school does return, those who haven't done the IEPs, we're going to have to get those in place, along with the regular IEPs that would have to take place when school did start. So the more we can get done and keep on track, the better for the students, the case carriers, the families. But the schools are going to be working directly with their families to meet the need wherever the family is at with that particular desire. Does that help?
Yeah, and does that include, like, for instance, you mentioned medically fragile as well as severely handicapped. Are there items that they will be receiving? Are there any items that we should look out to help support with that if they need to have something delivered to their homes?
So the case carriers or the teachers have been reaching out directly to those families, and they've been working with them. And we have a task force, or I guess a work group of our SH educators that have been figuring out what the services will look like specifically for our children that are most vulnerable. So that is, they're working through that, and anything that is needed based off of the IEP that we can provide, we are providing.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then I want to go really quickly before I end with the family engagement portion. I wanted to find out, and this was with, oh my goodness, it just escaped me, was regarding the family services, the HEART team and so forth. What are we doing to address those students that may have an emergency, or maybe in a home that's in an abusive home? And I'm talking about with teenagers, or high school students, middle school students, they're able to, if we provide a hotline, but what are we able to do to inform youth? If there's something not right going on, they can reach out to this contact number. What are we doing to address that for students at the early ages, such as elementary school?
So anytime things like that happen, Ms. Rosales Medina, it's the contact for the youngest students that you described. It's
Right.
that contact with their teachers. They might not even be, and I'm thinking when you're saying younger, if you're talking even early elementary, the savviness to like know where to go for a number. So a lot of that happens through their relationships with their teachers, which is why it was so important for teachers to continue to have that interaction with students and to be able to see them, hear them, and interact with them. For some of our older students, on the back of their IDs, there is the National Suicide Hotline on there. We have on our website lots of information related to suicide prevention as well as domestic violence. There's we're putting that information out a lot because we know and are aware of the statistics around this, what's happening in this environment when we're in these close quarters and people aren't getting a break and relief from one another, sadly. But that is definitely on our team's mind. So when our counselors or psychologists, when they know that there's already instances for some unrest in the home or, instability, that's why we're making these personal contacts. That's why it's the job, the essential role of our counselors and the team to make those personal contacts. And it's not a one-time deal. We're checking in. There's a regular rotation of that, just to more contact, the better.
Can we make available some type of familiar number, a number that they can call, and that way we can distribute on social media? So if they do have any concerns, and it's not necessarily just for suicide, it's for any type of abuse or any abuse that's going on at the home. And I know for younger children, it may be hard to remember, but as long as they're able to see it, and maybe, I don't know, having it within the Google Classroom as a self-guided, these are the extra numbers in case you need it, and so forth. So that was basically my questions.
There is another piece to this that where we're having resources for our administrators and our teachers, and I know that there are numbers that are in that resource counselors have created, because we know that the teachers, now that their kids aren't physically coming on campus and not as many people are seeing them, right? The teachers are maybe needing resources, like where do I refer this student to, or I'm noticing these things, what kind of resources are available. Our team, the Swiss team, has created a resource for the leaders and for the teachers so that they have it available and can use those resources, warning signs, different type of triggers and things that might be a red flag.
Okay, and just having that maybe available for students as well and families, just so they can have that handy.
We're always happy to add to what we're doing, for sure.
All right, thank you. That's it.
There we go. Thank you all. And I believe Dr. Mitchell, you have been waiting and you are up.
Thank you, board. We'll be trying to be as brief as possible. Wanted to give you some key updates regarding Google Classroom. As you know, we went live yesterday, and I want to echo Ashley's comments about just the courageousness of our teachers, the enthusiasm that they've undertaken this with, the innovation that I'm seeing. Our site leaders are being supportive, and they're learning with their teachers, and it's just a whole community renaissance, so to speak. I want to echo Mr. Gallo's comments about this is tough work, and we did it in very quick time, a huge lift over time. Want to give a lot of kudos to our cabinet team, as well as all of our mid-manager teams who don't get a lot of credit for this, but our directors and mid-managers that have helped us pull this together. We really created a tremendous amount of work over a short amount of time, and our teachers it's really resonating with our kids and teachers. And so just want to give you a brief update across the whole distance learning piece. So we have principals report that all of their teachers have developed and rolled out Google Classrooms at this point. For the first, and today was the second day of instruction, teachers generally offered orientations, introductions, get to know you, technical support, as well as parent orientation. So it's almost like the first day of school. Participation numbers were high across these first 2 days. Next slide. Thank you. Just wanted to describe for you what the typical student online experience looks like. So you'll have sometimes where kids are working independently, where teachers will attach assignments to go at their own pace, such as reading or high interest tutorials. We also have times where students will interact with each other through chats and blogs and emails, group projects, virtual field trips. And then there will be times where teachers are interacting with students through directed group lessons, videos, teacher read alouds, or specific instructions regarding content or assignments. Next slide. Also, board, we wanted to tell you that we have sent out some guidance I know that you were concerned about recording, and there's a variety of concerns around recording. So we have sent out guidance to all of our teachers around what we recommend and what we don't recommend, just to be short and sweet. If you look at the first bolded lesson paragraph, we do not recommend the audio or video recording of live meetings in Google Classroom sessions. We do, however, support these 5 bulleted recording pieces where you can pre-record a video where you're teaching and attach it to the site. You can do screencasting, which is basically projecting your screen and while you're teaching it to others. You can have students make videos or screen chats. You can record podcasts or make a PowerPoint where you're voicing over slideshows or audio recording. And then, of course, pre-made videos and audios from a variety of resources. We do recommend that kind of recording, but we do not recommend where teachers are teaching live with kids and recording that, and that can cause all kinds of problems. So just to let you know, board, that we have advised our teachers against this, and this guidance that you're seeing here is much more detailed in a letter that we sent out to teachers and principals. Next slide. We wanted to let you know that initially when we got started, we created 5 work groups that tackled various aspects of getting online instruction up and running, and they worked for 2 weeks over the spring break. Since then, the teams are continuing to meet, and now they're shifting their foci to address emerging needs that are coming out of the field. And so the groups, we've collapsed down to 4 groups. We still have a group meeting around and addressing the professional learning needs of our staff around Google Classroom, and actually offering a little bit more advanced coursework, more coaching support coursework, or more targeted or differentiated coursework depending on the level or need of each of our teachers. We still have work group number 2 around curriculum supports. This group is still looking ahead of where teachers are to ensure that we are aligning the scope and sequence and the curriculum supports to a digital environment and continuing to look ahead. I sent a chat earlier that we are preparing ourselves to do distance learning through January if necessary. We've already made the decision to provide summer school this summer using a distance learning format. I'll talk about that later. So we're ready, board, to respond to where the state and the nation will go in terms of our social distancing. Number 3, we still have Barbara and Mike too, as well as Eric and others, as you heard from Eric's report and IMT's report around device distribution, still tackling internet access, and then of course remote troubleshooting. That also includes, we love this piece where we're asking not only can you come get a device, you can come to those distribution centers and get help with your device. And then number 4, I'll go into more detail with this later, really having a detailed or a targeted focus on our high school seniors who we believe are our most vulnerable right now. Of course, vulnerable is contextual, but in terms of a K-12 system, we want to ensure that we know we have a group of kiddos out there that are seniors that may be lacking maybe deficit with credits. And even if they're going to school, they may have gotten more interactions and reach outs with adults to encourage them to keep going and get their credits. But in this kind of environment, you really could lose a lot of kids. And so we're really focused on that, as well as other issues that the high school principals are involved in. We'll get into that later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So speaking of high school seniors concerns, and so as you said, our first priority with high school seniors is to reach out to seniors who are in need of credit. So this week, board, we are sending a letter to parents of seniors, and we will attach that senior's actual transcripts. So they'll get a copy of their transcripts. They'll get a copy of our graduation requirements as well as A to G requirements. And we're going to say, parents, be advised, parents and kids, be advised that although kids are held harmless in terms of grading, this does not help you in terms of credit recovery. So we need to really distinguish that we don't want kids to get mixed up to thinking, I can't get hurt but you certainly got to still earn credits for our high schools to graduate. So really sending that message. And we thought that if parents can actually see their kids' transcript, it may put some fire in the house if parents weren't really sure. Because, you know, we all have young adult children that you can't quite get the full transparency from. So you wanted to eliminate that by giving parents an actual copy of their transcript. And then, of course, our credit recovery teachers, we have them all online now with Google Classrooms with A+ and Apex. That's both A to G coursework online as well as just simple credit recovery coursework online to get our kids graduated. Remember, our intention before COVID happened, our major push was to maintain our graduation rate, reduce reliance on A+, which is not A to G, and increase A to G completion rate using A to G level online curriculum. And it just so happened that COVID actually accelerated that work. So I want to share a little bit of that with you. Next slide. So in terms of our kids who are credit deficient, with counselors evaluating transcripts right now and reaching out to individual students, the current teachers of seniors, we're asking them to encourage their seniors. If they're getting a D or F right now, it's a great time, because remember, now this is where this whole held harmless comes into play. You can only improve your grades. So if you're getting an F or a D right now, it's a great time to improve your grades with your teachers. And so we're sending that message. And of course, our site registrars are critical to making sure that we post grades as they come in. Next slide, please. Okay, and so here's the other piece. This is what I was talking about earlier around sending out a letter. That letter will go out alongside students' actual transcripts. So we're trying to hit it from. We're asking teachers and counselors and current teachers and recovery teachers to kind of engage kids, and then we're also sending the letter to parents to engage parents to make sure that kids are getting pressure from both sides of the world that they live in. And so we hope that's will be effective in making sure that we get our kids graduated on time. So I know that we're all looking forward to graduation ceremonies, but some of our kids, we got to help them get there as much as we can. And so these are efforts to do that. Next slide, please. The other thing is summer school. So here's what we're proposing for summer school. We want to create an 8th grade, now that we're online and we don't have to worry as much about facilities and we're in an online virtual world. We've already made the decision to transition brick and mortar summer school to an online environment using distance learning. Of course, we believe that we won't have the stay home order will not be removed by that time. So we're proposing this, is that alongside our regular summer school that we normally offer, we want to offer summer school for all rising 9th graders to provide them with 4 courses. One is a math refresher. Number 2 is English refresher. Number 3 is a study skills class to help them be successful transitioning to high school. And number 4 is just a college going career orientation. So where we are thinking, and we're thinking this through and working with all of our partners in planning, including SBTA. We're just thinking out loud right now around, wouldn't it be great to take an opportunity to orient kids on our pathways, to help kids do kind of a strengths finder so they can identify their strengths and talents as they go into high school, to give them a full A to G crash course along with their parents to make sure that they're able to take control of their futures by having their A to G plan with them even before they get to high school. So it's our hope to use this 9th grade pilot kids to double our current A to G completion rate. Right now we're at 36% A to G completion rate. We're trying to get this current 9th grade class up to 60-65. So that's our goal, and so we're going to use this current year summer school rising 9th graders to do that. Next slide, please. This is the next. Okay, thank you. This slide really talks about our regular summer school. So we have, this is our goal: maintain grad rate, reduce the reliance of A+, and increasing A to G completion. So our 9th graders, our current 9th graders right now, We know that we're looking at a 50% DF rate among ninth graders. So that means they're already going into 10th grade credit deficient. So this summer, we'd like to replace those courses with A to G online curriculum, which is APEX, with the goal of replacing those missing credits, and so they start as full sophomores, as opposed to credit deficient sophomores. So starting early, then our 10th and 11th graders filling in coursework that they're missing from ninth grade, and then of course, and then we're looking at adding some enrichment coursework. So African American literature, Latin American literature, journalism, coding, things that can require A to G courseworks, while also tapping into the interests and talents of both our teachers as well as our students. We now have that ability to do that through distance learning, and then of course, having a clear focus for our English learners in summer school and our special education students as well. So the online environment is allowing us to be more innovative, progressive, and actually more aggressive with providing supports to our kids. Next slide. Puppy's moving a little slow. Board, this is an overview sheet. I know it's small. I'll make it a little bigger there for you. This is a course description of all the courses that we've offered to our educators, and we started out real simple with Google 1, Google 2, as well as supports for demo teachers. And this is like the course descriptions for the courses that our teachers have taken and are taking in preparation for virtual learning. Next slide. I'm just going to go through real quick to show you some of the data. Oh, wow, we're missing. We're missing a few slides, but this is we are keeping metrics on all the data. You'll see that we're keeping, like, for example, this is the coursework around demonstration teachers. You see that we've had 686 people go through, 437 left a evaluation, and it's a scale of 1 to 5, and so the average is 4.5. And you'll see Don Johnson is particularly for our special education teachers. And so what is happening across the dozen or so courseworks that we're offering for teachers and staff, we've had amazing participation. I'll say the majority of our teachers have participated in multiple classes and coursework. I want to give a real big shout out to our program specialists and our teachers and demonstration teachers across the district that have facilitated these trainings and have been models for their peers. I want to echo Dr. Hill's sentiment around what we're seeing now is a real collegiality and camaraderie around rallying around some new learning. And so in many ways, we've taken this crisis and come closer, as what most crises do for staff. Next slide. And you see across the board, we're just having trainings. This is just some reports on some trainings. Dr. Volkemer gives you the training metrics for the main classes. This is all across all. We won't go through this tonight. Next slide. But we just want to let you know we're keeping that data. Next slide. I do want to highlight one thing that Dr. Perez, next slide, that Dr. Perez centered on was the family engagement. You'll see at the bottom, family engagement, university virtual sessions. And so we already have begun training our parents on Google Classroom. Overview, you see we've had 71 go through as of last week last week. Not many have stopped to complete the evaluation, but those who have rated very high rankings. We're hoping to get hundreds and hundreds of our parents through this, and we will continue. Dr. Perez's office will continue to listen to our parents, listen to the needs of our parents, and tailor coursework that addresses our parents. I think what we have to consider are the learning needs for our students, our staff, and our overall community. And so that we want to assure the board that that's exactly what we're doing. I think that's the last slide for me. Just go next slide, please, so I can be sure. And as you heard too, here's a great example of being responsive to the needs of our teachers. When we first started going with Google Classroom trainings, we heard resoundingly from our TK, our kindergarten teachers, that this is a tough transition, and as you can imagine, providing a virtual environment for our youngest learners. And so in response, we've had many of our demonstration teachers and other kindergarten teachers that were familiar with this environment actually help us design coursework for our TK kindergarten teachers. And so in just since the development of that last week, we've had 417 people go through. And so what it suggests, board, is a deep desire of our staff to meet the needs of our kids. And it also shows how we can come together and be collegial and collaborative across divisions to meet the needs of this community. So just wanted to share that with you, board. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Great presentation by all of you. A huge, huge lift, and we're learning more and more and seeing a lot as we go. I believe there is a comment from Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. I don't know that I heard any discussion about scholarships resuming for our seniors this year. I know there was question whether or not the district was going to be facilitating those scholarships from the variety of community-based organizations that are out there. And Dr. Volker, were you going to report that later or talk about that at all?
He can report on it.
Report it. Sorry. I am going to report it under my comments.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I don't believe there are any other comments in reference to the presentation. So again, great presentation. We appreciate all the hard work that you all are doing and growing and working towards making sure our students are still keeping their educational continuity. So we appreciate it. We will now resume back to item 11.0, consent items. I don't believe there were any items that were pulled, correct? No, okay. So 11.0 consent items, if we can take those all together, can we?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Is there any questions or discussion? If not, Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman? Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt? Dr. Wyatt, okay. And Gwen Rogers, aye.
Aye.
Oh, there you are. Okay, your communication.
You're working now?
You're working now. We can hear you. All right, motion carried. Thank you. 12.0. And we are at 12.1 personnel report.
As presented.
Thank you.
So moved.
I'll second.
Move to accept the personnel report.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. Dr. You have a discussion? I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
It's always as presented, and I'm just wondering, when was it presented? Or is it just presented because it's on the agenda? I'm just kidding.
It's presented because it's on the agenda. Let's vote. Dr. Wyatt? Uh-oh, Dr. Wyatt, you're on mute. Okay, he gave me a thumbs up. Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman? Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Thank you, motion carried. 12.2, board ongoing initiatives and reports.
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second, and I believe Dr. Hill, did you have?
Yeah, I have a recommendation, Madam President and fellow board members. In lieu of all the work that's being done by Cabinet now, I would make a recommendation that we suspend 12.1 through 12.4 until further notice.
Can you suspend the report, the personnel? You said 12.1, the personnel report?
Oh, I'm sorry, 12.2 through 12.4.
All right.
And it doesn't mean they won't be working on it. It just means that we'll suspending the date, their due dates.
Okay. Oh, the date. Okay. Things or activities that are due.
Right. Well, in each area, we have a date we anticipate them to have finished, but I'm assuming everything with distance learning is a priority now. And I don't think,
okay.
I just don't think they're going to have time to do it. Not only I don't think they have time to do it, I'm not sure I think it's even fair to even ask them.
Is that a motion, Dr. Hill? Is that a motion?
Well, that's the motion inside the motion. So
I second it.
Okay, so are we amending the original motion?
So the original motion has been amended to suspend 12.2 through 12.2, 12.3, and 12.4.
And I think Mr. Gallo, that was it you, Dr. Flores, who made the original motion, or Dr.
Dr. Hill did.
Okay. All right. And you seconded. All right. Okay. So the motion is carried, and I hope you captured that. So the motion is to suspend 12.2, 3, and 4. So I will call for the vote, right? Mr. Gallo, right in the middle of you.
Aye, I guess. Yeah.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman? Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, so that's fine. Now, and it's been kind of going back and forth just because of the time, but I will now, before we get to before the review of board requests, we will have our board comments.
Okay, good.
And, okay, so we will start with, let's see who's looking. Oh, let's start with Dr. Wyatt.
Oh, I thank you, Madam President. I haven't had a lot to say today because
I know. Oh, Dr. Okay, you put
I will use my full 5 minutes.
Go right ahead.
I hope nobody says anything because a lot of people have been saying plenty tonight. So my turn. Be patient.
Claim your time.
First of all, thank you to everyone and all the great presentations. That was a tremendous amount of information. And I did see from Dr. Flores a request to have the COVID-19 update report sent to us in its entirety so we can review that information and all the great work that our staff has done, during this distance learning process. And, there was a lot of conversation tonight about our LCAP and funding and all that. And I think the best outcome that we're going to see from this is greater family engagement and involvement and working together at our LCAP meetings. I know most of us, if not all of us, have been at those LCAP meetings. So, what I see now is going deeper into the conversation, increasing our level of transparency and doing exactly what we've been doing, working with all of the groups that, many of our folks have talked about today in their public comments. And so I'm really excited about that because it's the work we're doing already every day. I know it is. We just saw it in all the presentations that we had, tremendous presentations. One of my biggest concerns, and I didn't see it as much in public comment, and Dr. Menares did a great job, and I know Ms. Abigail Medina Rosales talked about too, and that's our students with disabilities and ensuring that their needs are being met, not just now during this crisis, but in the future, again, looking at them and how we increase spending there. And you already know for me, social emotional learning and wellness is a top priority. So when our advocates out there and our community supporters are out there, asking for increase in spending or increase in attention and prioritization of all these key issues that they're talking about, we're doing that. We'll just do it to a deeper level and greater transparency. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm looking forward to our increased partnerships that we already have, and for us working together to do a great job. And like we've said, coming out is better than we went into this. We're already better now. than when we went into this, because we've learned things that we never knew how to do. Our staff have learned literally, you talk about crash course for our kids and parents, crash course for our staff as well. From every level, from the board to the admin, to our superintendent, Dr. Volkemer, everybody, this has been a crash course for all of us in learning, and me as a parent and my son as a student as well. So, and I definitely want to end on the note of safety for our students in our community. And, we had some great discussion and support about our school police department. And I think every one of us supports them. That is not a question. And it's just how do we continue to fund them and do it transparently? So we look again at that and making sure that our public and our community understands what we're doing. We appreciate them as much as we appreciate any of our other staff that we support. And again, I thank all of you for supporting our CSEA folks right now. I know that we some of us had some really deep feelings about that, but the bottom line is as we support our staff and we appreciate them. So thank you to all of you for doing that. I could probably talk a lot more, but most of you have covered most of the concerns that I've had or most of the questions that I've had. I'm sure we're going to hear more right now, but that's it for me. And I'm just glad I was able to get my volume back and my microphone working. So I can finally say something.
Great.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Wyatt. Dr. Hill.
I really couldn't believe he really took that 5 minutes. But,
how long was it? I want to know.
At least 5 minutes. I just want to say again, thanks to the staff, to everyone out there who's doing a good job. And board, thank you for all of your support of what our district personnel doing. I'm just going to give 2 quick shout outs. One to maintenance. I saw the lawnmower at Sangonia High School yesterday. So we needed the rain, but it sure did make our grass grow. So I just want to thank maintenance for getting out there doing the lawns. Then I want to also share with Ms. Bardere and her team communication. I'm just loving all of the social media bits. And I also want to say thanks to our President Rogers and Vice President Wyatt for their wonderful video. You did a great job. Really appreciated that, and I know so many others did as well. And my last one for the principals and the site staff, please keep those videos coming. I just love it when you do the videos and sharing them with your students. I know they appreciate it as much as we do. So just thanks to all of you. It's a hard job, but we're getting it done. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Flores?
Let me see. Okay, here I am.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I just want I have 4 things to say. I want our police to know that I appreciate, support, and value you very much because you're very important and you keep us safe and you protect us. You protect all of us, all our community, and it's highly valued. And like Dr. Wyatt said, we need you, and we will figure out how to address all the funding and so forth. Secondly, I look forward to our district convening a community forum of our stakeholders to address the issues raised by the Right to Resources report and to have a very authentic, courageous conversation regarding their recommendations. Thirdly, I think I've been getting comments and suggestions when we do go back and if we have to use masks, that we have them design them so that they have their logo, their school logo on there. And if we're going to order them in bulk, then we can negotiate a lower price. So I think we should be starting to think about that. It would be wonderful. And I know we got that email from a parent or a community member that had, if we do go through with graduation ceremonies, she had the colors of each of the high schools and did an incredible design of the masks. Really beautiful, beautiful, shiny material. I really love that. So I want us to keep that in consideration. And lastly, I just want to express my deep gratitude and love, true love, to all of our parents, our children, our students, our teachers, our counselors, our nurses, our classified staff, our rec aides, our everybody, our police, our administrators, our cabinet, because you are truly, truly doing an incredible job. You are our heroes and heroines, and I want to express my gratitude to my fellow board members. I see each one of you rising to the occasion. We may disagree, but we respect each other so much that we agree to disagree, but we listen to each other. And I also want to commend you, President Rogers. You're doing such a great job in leading us. I just want I want everybody to know that we value your leadership. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Rosales Medina.
Thank you. Same thing as everybody's mentioning. Thank you, President, Madam President, Gwendolyn Rogers, as well as Vice President Scott Wyatt, and the interim superintendent, Harold Volkermer. I have to say that I have been very pleased on how he's been working. So I wanted to say thank you to him and the whole team, of course, everyone involved. I do want to ask, though, regarding some of my concerns, and I know this was part of the presentation, but I didn't really address it then, was regarding how the information is disseminated to families. And one of the concerns, because I receive messages like many of you receive messages, what does it look like? My son is one of those that will ask, Mom, when do we start the classes? And this should be information that students should already know, and they don't have to necessarily reach out to their parents. This should be something that all students, and so when we heard during the public comment, one of the parents wanted to find out how do they get information for their students in classroom, that should have been already sent to the student directly. So we want to make sure that every school site is really connecting with students on what the steps are. Will all of the classes be virtual classes? Will some of the classes just be putting simple assignments on and students are completing as they go? And so I think one of the things that students do crave seeing each other. And if we try to support and promote more of the virtual classes, the Google classes where they're actually seeing each other as a way also to try to interact with students, I think that's a great idea. Out of 6 classes, my son, 6-7 classes, only 2 of them have sent out for virtual classes. So then that's just something that we want to make sure that our schools and teachers and really sending out what does it look like, even if it's a brief step-by-step, this is what it's going to look like. Because I know that I have been receiving several messages and wanted to make sure that we clear that up. And I don't know how possible it is, but if there's a way where we can have maybe, like for instance, Sanji, a school site, there's so many students there, but then having segments where there's ways to socialize. I know that within work environments, we're able to try to socialize doing this, we're able to socialize a little bit. I'm wondering if there's a way where we can have students also socialize amongst themselves in a safe environment through one of those virtual groups that we see online all the time. And that's basically it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Gallo.
Yes, thank you. I think I want to start off by thanking Harold for not retiring last year, even though I bet he wishes he did, that's for sure. And his commitment of his entire team. I mean, I know, Gwen, you've been every step of the way with them there and stuff, and I really thank you for that as well. But Dr. V, man, has stepped up, and he's been with this district for 140 years, just one less than Margaret. And it's just, it really is a pleasure to work with a leader that gets it, that is sensitive to people's needs. And I mean, not only staff, but students, parents, etc. and really trying to do strategic work amidst a tactical objective. And this is trying times. It really is, and we're all learning together here. But I think this is organized. It's being done calmly, even though I'm sure they've had plenty of uncalm moments during this crisis to roll things out and everything. And I think all in all, this has gone very, very smoothly. Now, it'll only get better. That's my comment. And so I just want to thank the entire team for their great work.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Dr. Flores, you said you had something more?
Yeah, is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. I want to echo Mike's praise for Dr. Volkemer. Harold, for my 14 years on the board, I just want to commend you. You're such a steady state. You're a good listener. You believe in all of us, all your staff. Teachers have confidence in you. Parents, you're reachable. What I like is you don't get too upset, even though maybe inside you are, but you don't show it. But I just want to echo what Mike said. And I think all of us, all the board, we really greatly appreciate you. And also, Scott, you're not forgotten. I value your leadership as well. You are just a wonderful leader. You bring such, different perspectives, and you keep us grounded. And I just appreciate every one of you. I appreciate for everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tillman. Okay. All right.
Where'd it go?
I don't know. Maybe he's having technical difficulties with his computer.
I think you guys blocked us today.
But I will say, I think you guys, I will not repeat everything that was already been said because I totally agree. I think our theme, I don't know where it's coming from or came from, but this "we're in it together" is just, it encompasses everything that we could ever say or do. And we are in this together. Last night, I was able to find out we had some early graduates. And so I had to reach out to the communication department. And so they're on top of that and was just sent me the information. And first thing this morning, things were done. So I echo that they are our communication line, because right now everything is virtual or on computers, and that line of communication is important to be able to respond. So I certainly appreciate that. I truly enjoyed Cajon's mass choir that they came together on the internet together. 3-part harmony was wonderful. And just keeping in line with the fact that we're in it together, I'm looking forward to Friday, spending some time hearing from the 2020 graduates. So I'm excited about that. And as we said earlier, we're constantly working together. And that's, I failed to previously when we first went into this and we had to make some decisions about food and how we're going to do things. I want to give a shout out to Fatima Adami, who stepped up right in the midst of some things and started, they started working with food on their side, and we were working with food and trying to bring it together. And that's what community is all about. So we are truly in this together. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate just the entire San Bernardino City Unified School District workers and everyone that's doing what they need to do to make sure that we can, land better, as Dr. Volkemer said. So having said that, Dr. Volkemer, you're going to give us the superintendent comments, and then somehow Dr. Menares is going to wrap all of this up, I think.
Well, board, I know the hour is late, so I'll make my comments brief. First of all, thank you for the kind comments. But this has been a total team effort. Everybody you heard from tonight, every single presenter has just done, I can't describe, really words fall short of the amount of work they've done, the quality of work they've done. And each and every one of them has teams behind them that are just boots on the ground, grinding it out, making history, really. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this team. I thank you for your guidance and your leadership. You've been there every step of the way. We appreciate that. Thank you for letting us give you a drink from a fire hose this evening in terms of how much we covered, but there's just so much going on, and we know that you want to know those things so you can share them in the community. A couple celebrations. My pleasure to share with you that another of our Royal Valley High School's career pathways has been awarded gold certification by the Linked Learning Alliance. The digital media pathway has earned this level of distinction, and we're so proud of what they've done. That's actually our goal for every one of our pathways. But we want to congratulate Principal Bernardo Valenzuela and his team for this outstanding recognition. Just a great job. Absolutely. Also want to send a hearty thank you, and this is the answer to your question, Mr. Gallo. Board, please join me in sending a hearty thank you to the San Bernardino Community Scholarship Association for their decision to move forward with scholarship activities for the class of 2020. Really excited. These are much needed resources for our students, and we're poised to help them and support them as they move forward with our scholarship efforts during these very unique times. And then finally, I wanted to make an announcement, and that is 2 weeks ago, the governor began to discuss reentry and what softening our stay-at-home order might begin to look like in the days ahead. And as he described the process and the metrics that he'll use to make that determination, he also made mention of the possibility of schools reopening in what he's calling a physically distanced environment. And actually, Tony Thurman, our state superintendent of public instruction, late this afternoon, in a Facebook live session, echoed the comments about physically distanced environment. This would obviously be a very significant shift for all of us, and one that affects many functions within our district. And I have to try to imagine a kindergarten class with a group of spirited young 5-year-olds trying to stay 6 feet apart at all times. I'm really going to kind of relish the thought of what that might look like. But it's really important that we think ahead and be well prepared. So I've asked Dr. Menares to assemble a broad-based working group to monitor upcoming guidance in this issue, explore the various options that may be available to us, and determine how we would make sure that any option that is given to us or that we would choose would meet the specific needs of our community. And that's what's most important for us. So I'm looking forward to that work. It would include calendar considerations for 1920. This is an exciting time. We're excited about the work, and we'll bring you progress reports as the work unfolds. So those are my comments for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Volkemer. And now we are back at 13.1, review of board requests. And I believe, is that Dr. Menares that's going to come on the line?
That is me. Okay. Second time around. So you motioned, Mr. Tillman motioned, and then there was a second and an approval to agendize moving the start of the 2020-21 school year. And Mr. Gallo also suggested that a calendar committee representative be part of that discussion. Is that accurate? The next one, now I have to read my notes. This was from Dr. Hill. When training parents, Dr. Hill recommended that a student is there to kind of help coach and support the parents with the online platform. And so we'll put that into some consideration. The next consideration also comes from Dr. Hill, which is to do some type of a parent survey just to get kind of a level of comfort or learning of the parent when they're starting the actual Google training. So really good pre-assessment idea. Ms. Medina has asked for the total number of meals served to date. So Ms. Christakos will get that out for you. Dr. Flores has asked that we consider convening a community forum, I think that's what you called it, Dr. Flores, to talk about the Right to Resources report. Let's see. I think this was Dr. Flores also. If we need to have masks when we return to school, to have them reflect the school logo and look into ordering in bulk so that we can get those moving.
I also asked Dr. Menares if we could explore other sites for meal distribution.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Explore additional sites for meal distribution. Okay. Ms. Medina, I hope I captured what you had asked. So let me read it and you tell me if I need to add anything else. You asked how information is being disseminated to families. You want to make sure that each school site is connecting with each student, and in that including what the teaching and learning would look like.
Yes, even if it was a guide, something, what to expect. But if there's a way where all students are connected through some means, or maybe a student is receiving the information but not really opening it, at least someone in the household is able to ask, know what's going on and what does it look like.
Okay, thank you. And then the last one that I have, and I think this came from Ms. Medina, is can we find ways to socialize or have our students socialize in a safe environment through virtual setting? So just finding ways to help them to connect and still meeting the stay-at-home orders. And that is what I have.
And Dr. Menares, could you add to the calendar discussion? SBTA made reference to, just to note that they should also be a part of the discussion, since we also indicated the calendar team. So I don't know if they're already included.
Yeah, they're the ones that kind of lead up the calendar.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
That was my point.
Yeah, okay.
I hear you. Your mic is on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 14.1, adjournment of board meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, yeah, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. See you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.